Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thanks a lot for joining us. We're here and we're live. We've got some people dancing with us as well. And we're here to have a look at the transfer window that was for the summer of 2024. We had Premier League clubs up and down the table looking to reinforce their ranks and trying to be the next Aston Villa. I maybe say with our special guests in the room as well to try and keep them smiling and happy. But I'm Quinny, of course, and I'm joined as ever by my co-pilot, Harry Trades. Harry, good to see you, my man.
Good to see you guys. Yeah, appreciate you asking me on.
And we've got Aston Villa's favourite. We've got Sam Ty, the football guy. Good to see you, my man.
Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Aye, absolute pleasure. And we couldn't talk transfers without trying to get you on, Sam. So thanks very much for taking time to come and slum it with us and chat about, I say, the transfer window. What was it, my man? It's appreciated. Thank you.
Well, I spent all summer sticking to the task, so I might as well use some of that knowledge one last time, squeeze it all out of the brain. Maybe this is like one of those processes where it's like an exfoliation. Now, if I say all this stuff one last time, it will leave my brain forever, and it will make room for new information that I need for the season ahead. Who knows?
I love that. I kind of feel similar. I've been doing a lot of content on the channel over, like, not all the transfers and stuff like that, but ones that I've found interesting, certainly. And yeah, it's like a good kind of bookmark session now. We're in an international window. The window's closed, and there's some dust to be lying around. Harry, the transfer window is a bit of a roller coaster for all of us, but how are you feeling that it's finally behind us?
I mean, yeah, this is not a Sorare video in that sense or stream, but yeah, from a Sorare perspective, I'm glad it's almost over. I mean, it is in the Prem, obviously, but we still have a couple of strays still going on. I think Turkey are mopping up all sorts today, so. Yeah, no, I'm glad the Premier League one is done in that sense, and yeah, it's going to be nice to just look back on who's kind of won it, because it's just been nice to just overview everything. I think because I've not actually sat down and looked through them all, but we've got like you said, some nice slides to go through today on every Prem team. So yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah, and I think like coming into this window, I'm always really excited for the clubs that are like ambitious or trying to like move up the table. Maybe they've got an interesting project on the go or whatever. And I've been calling them the bridesmaids all summer, and it wasn't until like kind of towards the end they kind of got themselves into gear. But they're trying to be the bride this year, and we're going in alphabetical order. So of course I'm talking about Arsenal. Started the window off quite kind of quickly, but then never really got anything done for a while. And then right at the end, of course, that Raheem Sterling loan and a bunch of departures as well. We've got it all in here, guys. I've never done this kind of stream before, so I don't really know how to format it. But I'm just thinking, coming into this season, Arsenal's job has got to be make up for that draw or two, make up for that loss or two they had last year to go that extra mile. And that's what I'm kind of thinking about when I look at their business for the summer is, have they done that or not?
Yeah, have they raised their ceiling? Or maybe another question is, do they need to raise their ceiling? Like, do they just need City to just be slightly off the pace? And is that a realistic possibility? Like, you can't really expect too much from them based on the fact that they've now put together an 89-point season. Like, that means that the team was pretty close to perfect. And with every addition that you make, there are ramifications, good and bad. Like, if you add, the goal scoring striker that so many fans are crying out for and so many pundits are crying out for, a guy that gets you 25 goals. Well, what if he's, useless at pressing and can't do all of the off the ball actions that Mikel Arteta is really, really hot on? So you have to look at Arsenal's business through a very specific lens. Arteta likes players who are good at everything. And he likes players who, even if they're very, very good in attack, they have to be exceptional in defence as well. And this is a hallmark of Odegaard's game. It's a hallmark of Saka's game. It's a big part of Kai Havertz. And I look at these players, and for the most part, I see exactly where he's going. Like, Calafiori is, a do-it-all left-back, centre-back, holding mid. He'll absolutely love Calafiori. Marino is exceptional off the ball. Most duels won in Europe last year. And Raheem Sterling has always been a hard worker off the ball. Gareth Southgate trusted him as his chief presser in attacking midfield for a long time for a reason. So as weird as it might sound, it's really important to look at all of Arsenal's signings, even the ones in attack, and ask the first question, how good are they at defending? Because that's what they work on. And that's the one of the most important things for Arteta. I look at this business and I think they've done pretty well. I admire teams that don't rip everything up because of failure. Arsenal don't have to make sweeping changes here. They just need it to fall their way. They're right there. They've built really slowly and really steadily and really smartly, and they're right there. They're on the cusp. And it's a bit like when I'm going to make a ridiculous comparison here to kick us off. When you're fighting the final boss on a video game, and you've nailed your very specific way of chipping away at his health, and then you get him down to the last bit of bar, and you abandon your strategy and just go for him and just hit all the buttons because it's just that last bit. That will always end in failure, and that will get you killed. You have to keep with the rhythm and keep with the system the entire way through. Arsenal have got the final boss's life bar down to about this, and it's really important they don't stray from the technique they've been using for the last 3 years to get here. How dumb was that?
No, I like it. I like it. I can dig it. What game have you been playing recently, but it's had that come to your mind, or is it just a thing?
I've not recently, actually, but this happens to me constantly on Horizon Zero Dawn, and it happened to me on Bloodborne as well, which is why I ended up giving up too hard.
Fair enough. I've not picked up many games in a while, but I heard people talking about the Wukong game that's out.
Apparently it's very difficult.
Apparently there's bosses everywhere. That's one thing I heard. So I thought I'll ask in case that was what it was.
I think it's from the Bloodborne family. It's the Dark Souls Bloodborne family tree of games. And when I found out it was related, I was like, well, I'm not playing that then. It's too difficult.
Very solid. But yeah, I think the incomings, I think Calafiore, Marino, these are types of guys that are really good. I think the Marino one's a little bit underwhelming for me personally, just in terms of the Arsenal midfield. I know Partey's had a wee bit of form recently. Odegaard's been fantastic, of course, and Rice has settled in there. But I was expecting, I don't know, something a bit more defensive, and I know Marino is box to box, and like you say, Sam, it is about being that kind of Swiss Army knife player. It's maybe a bit more appealing to him. But I don't know, I just expected there to be a bit more of a party version 2 kind of come in the door.
Well, like Zubimendi, like a deep flying guy.
But Zubimendi's not even really. See, when the Zubimendi was linked to Arsenal, I was just thinking Arteta's just trying to sign himself. That's all. He's just trying to sign himself, isn't he? Or just wants to see himself in the team. So I don't know if I'd see Zubi that way, but yeah, that was just I don't know. I look at all this now as a total piece here, 84 million. I like Calafiore as a player. I think he'll do really well in that left back position, but as I say, I don't know. I expected Arsenal to maybe, and an individual escapes me at the moment, but I don't know. When I seen it was Marino they were trying to get, I just thought, that just seems a wee bit like B tier,
Maybe 28 mil though, like in this day and age, is not even that much, is it really, for a Premier League transfer? And if it was 50 mil for him, then I'd be leaning towards your take, Quinny, and being fair enough. They might have overdone that there price wise, but if you look at ingoes and outgoings, they've basically got rid of players that, let's be fair, outside of Nketiah, didn't really impact Arsenal's season last year in that positive a way. Okay, Ramsdale came in when he needed to now and again as the keeper, but getting rid of Emile Smith-Rowe for 27 million is incredible business realistically, as highly rated as he was and all the promise or whatever. He's just not an Arteta player. Defensively, athletically, he's not really that type of player, going back, and he got all the flair and stuff going forward and probably helps Fulham out a lot. But they brought in players that are in contention to start. Calafiore, Marino, obviously Raya's now made permanent, and Sterling, I know is free on a loan, but I think he'll rival Martinelli big time. I think he offers some things that Martinelli maybe lacks in, as far as goal scoring prowess. I know Sterling hasn't been on it the last couple years in that sense, but we know it's there. He's a proven very good Premier League winger, and I think it's incredible business if you look at the actual amounts that have gone in and out in that sense, to come away with a couple of starters and offloaded a couple of guys that didn't even kick a ball. It looks pretty good to me, I think.
The Sterling one I love. I absolutely adore this transfer. On last Monday, when the Sterling stuff started to brew, so he'd been left out of the squad, right? It was starting to brew, he's going to have to go. And I got asked a few times by different people, where would you like to see Sterling go? And I said Arsenal, but then I asterisked it with, I'm not sure that it's really possible. And that was a comment on the financial side of things, because we knew that his wage was 300 to 350 grand a week, and add on a transfer fee and consider his age, consider the fact that he's not had the best couple of seasons, and it starts to become really difficult to see a deal being made unless a massive concession is made by one party. And Chelsea have made that humongous concession. There is no loan fee for Raheem Sterling, and Arsenal were paying, I think, about 40% of his wages, maybe 50, which means that they've got him for free, and okay, still about 150, 175 grand a week. But if you've got the room in your budget, and it's only a 1-year commitment, and you think this is a player that could really help us out here, go for it. Just go for it. And he's worked with Arteta before, obviously, when they combined at City. I'm a big fan of Sterling. As I say, that the defensive stuff fits the bill as well. So this is quite a heartwarming one for me as well, because I thought Sterling was very poorly treated. And to go from you've been left out of the matchday squad at Chelsea to you're in a title charge, like it is falling into a barrel of shit and coming out smelling of roses in the most literal sense. Like, it is incredible for his career to turn around like that in the space of about 2 weeks. I'm really pleased for him.
I think Sterling will hit the ground running here. I was quite impressed when Arsenal originally brought in Zinchenko and Jesus, because I do think like you do need those guys that have been there, done it, they know the course, etc. And Sterling just kind of compounds in on that. I would like to see him do really well there as well. I've always been a bit of a Sterling fan. But you do wonder, like with some of the qualities he's had before, like he has kind of been on the shelf for the last little while. Chelsea have been a bit of a basket case, and I think he was a bit of a silver lining for them last year in spells and moments, you know, when it was kind of between managers and whatever. But yeah, I like that part of this move as well. One of the things that does really jump out to me in this one, Sam, also being a Villa fan, will know all about this, but one of the things that's really dogged this transfer window has been the horse trading of youth players. And Arsenal have managed to sell, like you said, Harry, Smith Rowe for 27 and Keita for 26. That's £50 or £50 million, like genuinely, for not like what Villa and Chelsea begin up to, you know, in Everton, but that's genuinely 50 million generated in homegrown players, which helps them. Well, that gives Arsenal a huge edge in the market in general, doesn't it? They do have guys like this swimming around quite often.
Yeah, I mean, it gives them an edge. It probably created the room for them to take Sterling on loan at the end of this window. It's possible. I don't know the finances. No one does until about a year afterwards because of the accounts. But it's very possible that created the room for them to commit to this very short-term commitment on Sterling for the year and see if that might get them over the line. And of course, it's not a long-term commitment, so if it doesn't work out, they don't have to take him on next year. But that money is still in the accounts for 3 years, and that may allow them to go big on a player next year for 80 million if they can then add a permanent departure for Reece Nelson to those two and make it 75 in homegrown sales over the last 2 years or 18 months or whatever it is. So it gives you an incredible amount of flexibility, not just short term, but in the medium term as well. This has been a bit of a love-in, so I'm just going to balance the argument and say that Neto is atrocious, and I appreciate that it is a needs-must scenario, and I appreciate that if you finally let Ramsdale go on the day of the window closing, or it's been agreed the day before, and then your long-term plan, which was always to go and get Joan Garcia from Espanyol, you had the personal terms agreed for months, but then Espanyol, because they have no time to replace him, demand the full release clause. You are left up creek without a paddle to an extent, and it is your fault for dragging your feet on Ramsdale for so long that when you went to go and get his replacement, they said, we can't replace him, we can't do this. So I'll say all that and say I understand that they didn't have their pick of the litter when it came to getting a backup goalie in. They had very little time and very few options. But Neto, I've never seen the bloke leave his line for a start. Like he's like Shay Given reincarnate, and he may be a career backup goalkeeper for a big team. Like he's done a lot of that at Juve, Valencia, Barcelona, a few others, and maybe he's got the right mentality to be a big club backup. But like stylistically, him, Arteta, it's a terrible fit, honestly. So I don't think Arsenal were actually very pleased with how that all shaped out at the end. Or they shouldn't be.
I was going to ask you guys if you thought Arteta maybe tried to approach Scott Carson for this position, but I think you've now convinced me that Neto is the Brazilian Scott Carson, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I just got a comment saying no Shay Given slander. I apologise for that. But the end of Shay Given's career came through just at the time when goalkeepers were starting to really impact outside the box, and it just made him look just so old-fashioned compared to the other guys. So he sticks out in my mind as that like archetypal old-school guy, and Neto is also a guy. That's a proven winner. Neto's probably got a bigger trophy case than Arteta, to be fair. Yeah. All those backup trophies.
Love it. Yeah, I think we'll skip past Arsenal. So I guess like I'm thinking for Arsenal, the job is like bridge that gap, and like you rightly say, Sam, the gap is almost perfection to perfection. That's kind of the situation they're in. I think Calafiore is an upgrade at left back. That's what I said about Marino. I think what you said kind of the intro, Sam, is probably the best way Arsenal could look at this season is like, they keep that pace of 89, 90 points, that kind of range they're at. I think the players have signed kind of help them do that. And like you said, Harry, as well, like everyone that's left this, like none of them really impacted the first team anyway, so they're not really none the weaker for it. And only spent $2.5 million across the window. Net. Tidy.
There you go. I mean, look, those Liverpool teams that finished second to those City teams, those Liverpool teams that got 98 or 97 points, and then another one that got like 90, like whatever it was. It's sickening numbers to not win. Like you'd never turn around and go, right, we didn't win the title. Let's perform surgery on this team. That team was genuinely like so close to perfection. You just need to keep that in the front of your mind. And I think Arsenal have done a really good job of recognizing how good they actually are and how little they need to do to take that next step. I know it's frustrating for Arsenal fans because like coming so close twice in a row is pretty heartbreaking. But I commend teams for standing firm in the market, and I commend teams for having a bit of self-awareness as well.
Yeah, good shout. I'll take us on to Aston Villa, who were very interesting to follow in this window. And I know, Sam, you might have been jumping on the ceiling at 1 or 2 points, better or worse. It was never really boring. We've got a huge incomings list, and we've got quite not a long outgoing list, but I think the cheapest outgoing there is 9 million. So it's a lot of money coming into the club, certainly. But I guess, Sam, I can start with you this one. But how overall, how do you feel at the end of this?
I mean, no one really still knows how to feel. All the Villa fans are still a bit like, well, what do we make of that? Not sure. Need to have another 10 weeks to have a sleep on it and figure it out. Like, I think probably the starting point for those that don't know is to say that like Villa didn't really want to do much of this. This was not the plan. But they were one of 5 clubs or so that came under extreme PSR pressure ahead of June 30, and they had to make a sale. So from what I can tell, and you do have to piece it all together, they sold reluctantly Douglas Luiz to Juventus for 50 million euros, so 43 million pounds, to satisfy PSR concerns. And they sold Moussa Diaby for 52 million pounds to satisfy UEFA squad cost regulations. Now, honestly, we'll get to it because you'll see the business later, but sometimes it's better not to be in Europe, because when you're outside of UEFA's regulations, they can't control how much you spend and they can't instigate their sort of squad cost ratio stuff. You look at Brighton, who we'll get to very soon, and their spend. I guarantee you that with this window they've just had does not happen if they're in the Europa League. It cannot happen for you because of UEFA's rules. So Villa have kind of butted their heads against this glass ceiling over the course of the summer, and they did what they had to do to stay compliant and avoid a points reduction. So that's Douglas Luiz for Premier League stuff, and that's Moussa Diaby for UEFA stuff. They had to buy Cameron Archer back from Sheffield United due to a clause because they got relegated. They immediately sold him to Southampton. So he's gone again. It's the second time they've sold him in the space of a year. Tim Arobanen and Lewis Dobbin were not swapped, but sold between the clubs at the same time for similar amounts of money. And Lewis Dobbin is on loan at West Brom. Enzo Baranachea and Samuel Illing Jr. were bought off Juventus in a separate deal to Douglas Luiz. Samuel Illing Jr. is on loan at Bologna. Enzo Baranachea is on loan at Valencia. So really, if you look at this list, the only players that are impacting Villa's first team this season are Ian Matson, 3 sub-appearances so far, Ross Barkley, couple sub-appearances, Jaden Philogene, 1 sub-appearance, I think, and Onana, the big one, literally, and he has been phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal. What a start. 2 goals, but much more than that. It's just dominated in the middle of the pitch. Just so good, and exactly what Villa needed. Quinny, I'd have been on your channel last year saying that Villa are great at so many things, but the set piece weaknesses, defending set pieces is a problem. Small side, no physical presence in the middle. You know, Luiz and Tielemans, small dudes. Onana has just completely transformed the outlook of this team. Attacking set pieces, defending set pieces, and just like physical dominance in the middle of the park. Like he's been absolutely amazing so far. We're all so like I mean, I just love him already. You know, he's great. He's formed a really good relationship with the fans. He's got a huge personality, and his performances have been stunning.
Yeah, he's hit the ground running big time.
Yeah, if you score 4 minutes into your debut, like you are going to set yourself up for a nice little run of form, aren't you? Like, does help.
I think to get like a younger, bigger, taller, stronger, faster, maybe not as technical, but I'm not calling Onana not technical as a midfielder. Luis, you know, I think they've done incredibly well there. What's that, like an £8 million difference? I know it wasn't, you know, whatever the fee was, but like, Jesus, man, like, I think it's a massive upgrade. Like, I do rate Douglas Luiz, but I think he is very restricted in what he offers as a midfielder. And in the certain right setup, maybe, you know, with Motta at Juve, it might definitely work. But like you said, Sam, you were probably missing. I mean, especially if you're going to play Tielemans, you need serious legs around him.
Yeah, and they played together for Belgium, and so they had this sort of inbuilt relationship, which was lovely. I was hoping that Tielemans and Dendoncker would use their inbuilt relationship from Anderlecht, but unfortunately, Dendoncker is just not good enough to play for Villa, so you just didn't see him very much. Look, I'll be honest, in a perfect world, and you say to me, Sam, who do you want to partner with Onana, Luiz or Tielemans? You can just keep one and sell one. I would have kept Luiz. That would have been my preference. I prefer him, and most Villa fans would say the same. But I don't know if I just need to give the club good credit here for seeing this coming, because they signed a player who's very similar to Luiz for free, and then slotted him in a year early, and now have sold Luiz for €50 million, and now Tielemans has just assumed the role after coming in and out of it, and bang, Villa have got 6 points from 9 and given Arsenal a right scare. They've started a lot quicker than I thought they would. Got to give them credit for that too.
Yeah, I think Aston Villa obviously hit the heights last season, and you do hope that, again, like I kind of said in the intro, the things that always catch my eyes, those clubs that do try and, like, you know, break the mold or achieve something new. And Villa were like the talk of the town last year for that Champions League football this year, of course. And when I see all these players coming in,
how many videos did you make about Aston Villa last year? You were the one that was
a lot,
I mean,
a lot, man.
Honestly, of all the people I saw, apart from like Aston Villa content creators, it was Quinny going, "They're brilliant." You were leading the charge, man.
It's good. But, so the thing with me and Villa, right, is like Unai Emery and Monchi. Like, I've always just been fascinated by them anyway for the last like 5 or 6 years or 10 years or however long they've been kicking about for independently. But there's not been many times where they've worked at the same club at the same time. It might be the first time, but I don't think it is. But so I always love seeing those kind of people kind of link up then. And the thing that I've always thought has held these people back, being at Roma, being at Seville, being at Valencia, is they're not in the Premier League. You know, they've not got that allure, you've not got that spend, you've not got all that going your way. So I've always just been really excited that these guys having the cheat codes, basically, where like they're a Premier League club, so no one's going to reject them in theory, you know, and they should have, with to a greater or lesser extent, their pick of the litter. And when all these guys were coming in, I was making videos about it, and I was thinking like this was like a squad build, you know, like firmly, like Barry Nichelle will be in the fold somewhere, Anglin Jr., Maatson might be a starter, maybe even Dobbin is going to be some sort of like Watkins, like 10-minute cover for the end of a match or something, I don't know. But they've been they've been munchied, you know, they've been loaned out, they're getting primed to maybe be future assets and future transfer windows is the way I'm kind of seeing it now. With the guys, like you said there, Sam, there's only 2 or 3 that actually hit the squad. 8 games in the Champions League. Last year, the Europa Conference League, like the first 2 games were kind of phoned in, and then they had to really double down on the back end of the group. Yeah. Do you feel good? I know you feel good, but do you feel that they've done the job in the window?
I think they've done the best job they can. Look, I won't be the only Villa fan out there who just wishes that there was an extra defensive body in there, a right back, centre back guy. Like, and Villa are like Villa wish they had it too, right? Because they spent the last 2 weeks of the window trying and failing to get something over the line for Geertruida, or I don't know how to say his name. Sorry, but he ended up going to Leipzig to replace Mohamed Simakan. So like we just couldn't move the players on. Like Alex Moreno went on loan, then Donker went on loan, Barrenechea left on loan, and we thought this was all like they're clearing the wage bill, they're gearing up to something, they're going to find a 25 million in someone's back pocket, and we're going to sign Geertruida. It just couldn't happen. I think it turns out what needed to happen for that to happen was Diego Carlos would have needed to leave, but there were no bites. or at least no reasonable bites. So look, there was space to do. Well, no, there was a hope and a wish to do more, but financially, I don't think there was any space at all to do any more. And look, this is it. Maybe that means that come January, if you do get a couple of those outs, you do actually have the room to pick that player up in January. Just like last year when you didn't really think Villa were going to do much, and then Morgan Rogers got signed by Middlesbrough in January, and we thought, oh, that's weird. Why are they doing that? And now he's like on the cusp of the England squad. So, give Monchi a little bit of gunpowder and let him fire, and just maybe just save yourself a little bit of space for that January edition if you need it. Like there's no harm in doing that. You don't have to go through all the money in the summer. So it'll be interesting to see. But look, it's clearly a bigger and better squad. Luiz and Diaby are big misses. I still think that the first 11 is technically slightly weaker than it was at the end of last season, but there's room for that to change over the next couple of months. And Ian Maatsen will play as a starter very soon. Like Emery is just very traditionally slow at throwing new guys into the team. He's had to do it in Onana's case, and I think the fact that we had to play West Ham away was a big influence in that because they're a big old side. But Maatsen was always going to be post-international break. Let's just take our time with him. But he'll usurp Luca Dean pretty soon, I think.
I think so. Thoughts and feelings, Harry?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Onana one's the main culprit there, isn't it, really? And, you can't ask for much more than, what he's really done starting-wise. Barkley for 5 mil, I think still quite clever business. If anything happens to Tielemans, I think that's a really nice one. I've watched Philogene play at Cardiff. I've always rated him. I've always thought he'd sort of play Premier League football. He's got some real class about him, but I don't think he's like a starter. And then it's just Maatsen. Like you want to get your money's worth out of that 40 million that you spent on Maatsen, which I think they will over the course of his contract and whatever, maybe even the sell on at some point. But yeah, I think it's clever business. Really, really clever. Get the Saudi bag off Diaby and bring in an inform Luiz in Onana. So yeah, I think they've done really well.
Got to be careful talking about Moussa Diaby too much. Quinny had his rare. Quinny picked up his rare end of last season. Texted me and was like, big season coming. And I was like, I 100% agree with you. He's going to take a big leap. He's going to be amazing. And you probably heard that from me and thought, yeah, I've made the right call.
Yeah.
And,
I thought
yeah.
I wasn't always I was unconvinced by Diaby for a lot of his time in Germany, but I was willing to go along with it at Villa, and I definitely think he took the Premier League quite well. I do find that move to Saudi so strange, but I didn't know the background that you gave us earlier. But yeah, that rare's got a red X on it now with a few others.
Damn it!
Like,
not even a blue.
Yeah, not even a blue. That'll bring us on to Bournemouth, who don't wear blue. I was hoping the next team was going to be a blue team, but no, they're not. And I got really good. I would say Aston Villa deja vu from Bournemouth a little bit. In terms of the Andoni Iraola, kind of year one last year, they kind of really developed their own thing in terms of style, and it was really good for him to translate his La Liga style into the Premier League, as it were. But the players they were buying, as we see on screen here, Hausen, Ivan Nielsen, Araujo, the squad is really well rounded if we were to look at the depth chart, and then they're going out and they're getting really smart signings. And again, I don't know, this just it gave me a bit of Villa deja vu, where it's the manager really knows a clear idea, and then the players that they're going and getting, to think of the Villa examples from the year before, guys like Watkins, windows went by anyway. Watkins, like Diego Carlos, Pau Torres, guys that will just come in and fit the system. So I've got a wee bit of faith that Bournemouth could have one of their best seasons ever in the Premier League, maybe.
Yeah, what would that mean? It doesn't
mean much.
Well, I mean yeah, it's I think if they finished 8th, it would be their greatest ever finish or something like that. I mean, if you're a Bournemouth fan out there, then do correct me, but it wouldn't be much beyond that to be literally their best campaign in the history of the club. So yeah, they're right on the cusp of that, aren't they? Because this has got to be one of the most talented squads, the most talented squad they've ever had, and one of the best managers they've ever had. Evan Nilsson, a year ago he's getting linked to Man United, and now he's at Bournemouth. Now, a link to Man United doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it does speak to the esteem that he is held in. Porto's number 9, partner in crime with Taremi. They were great together. And he's a Champions League footballer, and he's at Bournemouth. And look, we've seen plenty of this over the last 5 years. Lots of mid-table Premier League clubs buying Champions League level players. Villa did it last year with Moussa Diaby, but there's been others as well. It's sometimes a bit difficult to get your head around, but it makes all the sense in the world. And they've gone and picked up a really good player with a lot of upside to replace Solanke for half the price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough to replace Solanke's 24 goal involvements last year, right? That ain't going to happen. Like, Evan Nielsen isn't coming into Bournemouth and doing that, unfortunately. But, can he do half of that for half the price? Maybe. Which then your Semenyos and your Taverniers and whoever else around him are going to sort of have to mop up and contribute. That Houston's a good centre half. I've seen him play a few times, and he's like really highly rated. Comes up on all the sort of funky stats these days, and looks really good. And Araujo, I mean, he's had a very weird career since his move to Barca and whatever. But like, I mean, for $8 million, I don't think there's not that much risk in it in these days. At that price, and like they've lost. Like Lloyd Kelly's a starter in the Premier League type of thing on a free. That's probably quite disappointing from their side of things. And then obviously the Solanke one's the big one. The rest are obviously loans and whatever. And Kiefer Moore going, he was never going to play Premier League football realistically when you're buying Evan Nielsen for 30 mil. So I don't know. Are they going to have a better season than they did last season with Solanke scoring 24 goal involvements or whatever? I don't know. I don't think so. But they've had a few good results already. So I'm here to be proven wrong.
It could happen. I mean, the thing for Bournemouth is, I know this is a transfer window show, but really their biggest enemy is their own inability to control game state. So they are like the super high pressing, high energy team. They're brilliant at leaping out into leads. And if they go behind, they never, ever, ever stop. And they keep going and they keep chipping away. But if they're in a position where they need to just hold on to an advantageous position, I mean, honestly, like they are useless at it because they only really have that one way of playing. It's that Areola high press system. And they don't really have that second, more relaxed gear. So it's about the manager sort of tactically evolving here as much as anything in order to keep going. And maybe some of these players can really help with that. Maybe not. I couldn't say. But that's for me. That from a Bournemouth perspective, like in terms of progression, the number one thing I'm looking for here is, can the manager show me that he's got that second gear to go into a lead and then calm down, like just calm down. Bournemouth cannot hold on to leads.
Bring it home. Get that fish on the boat, No, I totally agree with that. I've not watched enough Bournemouth to that extent, Sam, but I think like you've made some great observations there. I think the kind of thing that kind of strikes me about this business is like, I know Solanke's turned out good now, but do you remember when they bought Solanke from, was it Liverpool that they got him from? It wasn't Chelsea, was it? It was like big money and it was a real gamble and it didn't really work. They ended up getting relegated and also they bounced back with him. They've ended up selling him for 55 million, which is great. But I do feel like the likes of Ivan Nielsen, we're already seen a decent debut from Housen, and we'll see how Kepa does. But these guys feel a bit more like they come in and they make the best 11 better. Whereas Bournemouth down the years have always just been like, they've spent money on people, but it's always been kind of half-baked in a lot of ways. So I don't know. I just think they're on a good footing here. They could be onto something.
They've stopped buying Liverpool's overpriced teenagers and they've started buying real footballers.
Like Jordan Ibe and all these other guys, and Jordan Ibe was a big money guy, wasn't he?
And there was a fullback. There was an Australian fullback as well, wasn't there? Brad Smith. He was way too expensive.
In the MLS. Yeah. He's playing for Houston Dynamo. He was at Cardiff as well. Yeah. Bold guy.
Good luck to him. Yeah. I don't know, he wasn't bold when he was 20.
Well, he's fucking bold now, I can tell you that.
Oh dear.
That's hilarious.
The way you said bald guy there, it's just like as if you're talking about a guy. Oh, yeah, did you see Bobby down the shop? Aye, was that big bald guy? Like, again, I was trying to get a segue on the go, but I don't think there is any big bald guys at Brentford. But Brentford coming into this
was a little bald guy.
Yeah, I suppose it's the beard, but it's kind of thrown my brain off.
And
there.
Wisser is also bald.
Yeah,
a very shiny headed forward line.
Yeah, very true.
Does Thiago have any hair?
Ooh, maybe he's got like that. I think he's got like no hair, but he's hanging on to it. It's one of those ones where it's like,
oh, it's short hair. It doesn't quite fit. Maybe that's why they injured him in training.
Not shiny enough.
You've not got that on the incomings.
So no, we don't. Oh no, near we do.
But it's because they got the deal done in like March or something. They got it done so early when they knew Tony was going to go. So he's probably not quite found his way into the transfer market filter or something.
Gutted. But yeah, we do have some bold guys in the Brentford team, and I guess coming into this window and coming into this Premier League season, I think like Brentford for me were one of the teams that are probably at the most risk of like stagnating. You know, not really moving forward. They were quite impressive at first, and they're money balling it. They don't have an academy, and everyone thinks they're cool. And you know, over the last season, it felt like they were really hanging on by the fingernails of their teeth. They needed Tony to come back from that suspension, and you know, I know he didn't score tons of goals, but he definitely gave them a lift and a bit of a bounce. So it was all eyes on them for me in terms of this window. Like, are they going to, you know, really try and reinforce the ranks in some way? Are they really going to push the boat out? And I've got to admit, I don't know the bottom two guys, Gustavo Gomez and Jadon Magoma. I was quite impressed with the Vandenberg get. I think he's a good defender in the making. And Carvalho, again, did great in the Championship, but we'll kind of see in the Prem. I'm still not... I think Brentford, and we've not went through all the squads, I've tried to keep some of the stuff for when we do this. But I do think Brentford are a good shout for relegation on squad strength.
So they started okay. They started without Tony, even though he was there for a couple of weeks, and really set their stall out there to say that we've remodeled without you, mate. Like, we've moved on. And the Wissa and Burmo combo is a pretty spicy one, isn't it? Like, it's quick. It's got a nice, like, Wissa's like, he's like really direct and a very forceful player, and Burmo's just got that, like, he's really fast, but he's just got that touch of class, you know, cutting in on the left and on his left foot, and just, I don't know, there's something about the way he strikes the ball. A bunch of Liverpool fans all want him to replace Salah, and like I can see why Liverpool would want Brian Mbeumo. So not to underestimate the attacking power that they actually do have, and Carvalho is presumably a very nice addition as well. But yeah, they really fell off the rails last year, and if they're not defensively compact, then what are they? You know, if they're not stubborn and difficult to play against, hard to break down, good from set pieces, then what are they? And they were none of those things towards the end of last season. And when I say they've played well to start the season, like they've played some very open games of football. Like that first one against Palace was like, you know, back and forth, no control in midfield whatsoever. You know, I find myself talking about that quite a lot. But if you can't calm the storm down, it is going to come and get you. And Brentford really struggled with that. So I don't have a definitive say on how I think they're going to get on. I don't know Gustavo Gomez. I don't know how much Magoma's going to play. I've barely seen Sepp Vandenberg. But I would say that they can't possibly be worse than last year. Like, is that a fair way to look at it? Like, can they get any worse? I don't think it's possible. And they still didn't go down.
They're just immune to going down. Like Gustavo Gomez, as I said, look, he's only 18, so I can't see him really coming in and affecting much of, you know, beyond, you know, just probably going on loan or something. But yeah, Carvalho, 26 mil though feels hefty if we're talking just like, it's a lot of money, isn't it, for somebody that, like, you know, sniffed a couple of games for Liverpool and, you know, a very, very poor man's Harvey Elliott in a lot of ways. 26 mil.
Yeah, it's a fair bit. I get it. I think he's obviously very talented and had a good pre-season and then needed to play. There's a really nice little added bonus in here for Brentford, which is that Fabio Carvalho is a Fulham Academy graduate. And so Fulham were so annoyed to lose him. Like, they lost him, you know, basically to a tribunal fee, you know, where you can't agree, you leave on a free, and then you get it sorted at CAS later. So it was quite acrimonious. It took months to sort out. And they ended up getting, I think, about 7 million for him. And so for him to rock up a couple of years later at Brentford, it made some of the Fulham fans feel physically ill. And I can't put a price on that, but it's a minimum of £6 million. That's worth it.
Fair play. I didn't know any of that with the Tottenham background or anything. So again, great insight, Sammy boy. The outgoings there, like you said, you don't think Tony will kind of hold them back. Obviously, Raya's kind of, that's kind of been out the door for a little while, hasn't it? And Strakosha is now kind of less. So, yeah, like I suppose, like how much weaker are they? Tony only showed up for the second half of the season. It just feels like it's going stale for me. It feels like Leicester 2 seasons ago a little bit, where it's just like, yeah, they've got squad and they've got weapons, but it's just kind of like, it's just going a bit kind of blunt. It's just how I kind of feel for them. I don't really hold much faith for Brentford. I know they started well, beat Palace on the first match, and as I look at it now, I think they're in 6th or something. Yeah, 2 wins and a loss in the first 2 games is definitely respectable. But I don't know. I've just got this feeling that they're going to burn out. They're just going to fizzle off, kind of thing.
Yeah, I commend you for not trying not to let these first 3 games shape what you think too heavily. Like, it's a very difficult trap not to fall into. I'm going to fall into it many more times as we progress through talking about these teams. I struggle with it. Like, on the first 3 games, Brighton are clearly worlds better than Man United. How will it look after 38? I don't know. But all I've got is the evidence of the first 3 games. So Brighton are clearly finishing 4th and Man United are finishing 12th. That's how it works.
I do worry, though, if Wissa does get injured, that could be, like you said, the Tony thing going. Like,
well, look, Thiago is there, right? He's going to come back at some point.
Right, fair, yeah.
But apparently he's been spotted. He's been spotted in the local supermarket on a mobility scooter. So I don't know what the severity of the injury is, but that ain't good.
I mean, I think he did his ACL, didn't he?
No, I think he did. I don't know.
I'm sure it was knee, but I could be wrong.
I think it was a knee, but they didn't say ACL. I think they said he's out. He's out until for the rest of the year, not the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when he's back, okay, that does look a bit safer, I guess. But yeah, from now until, let's say, December, you've got to keep them Mbeumo and Wissa fit. If they're not playing, I just can't see where goals come from in that team. Yeah.
It's very Danish and Norwegian kind of team, isn't it? Where it's all like, the defence in the midfield, there's not much flair in it, not to stereotype anyone here, but like, they've got good technical players, they're all quite physical, and they follow the script, but other than Carvalho, there's no step overs and magic and, shooting from 30 yards or anything.
Quinny, have you seen the role that Christopher Ajer is playing as a former
left back now? Yeah.
No, he's not a left back. He is a flying left back. He is overlapping. He's busting a gut. He's taking shots from 6 yards. He's got a BCM. He's ridiculous. Like, they obviously don't really have any fit left backs. That's why they've signed Jadon Magoma, I assume, although he's barely played any first team football. They took him out of Saints Academy. So I don't know how quickly they expect him to make an impact, but they've played Vitaly Janelt at left back in the cup. They've played Ajer at left back in the first 3 games. They've had terrible luck on the in terms of like knee injuries and not knee injuries. Yeah, knee injuries. Sorry, I just saw meniscus and went for knee, but Rico Henry tore his ACL, didn't he? And Aaron Hickey is out as well. They had terrible luck with it. But it, what it has brought us is the ability to watch Christopher Ajer slamming up and down that left wing like he was born for it. I assume he's going to pull a hamstring very soon, but it's good to watch.
I don't think he will. He used to do this. We used to play him right back, believe it or not. Sometimes, yeah. And my Twitter bio for about 3 years before I made content and had to put stuff in it was just Christopher Ajer can do anything. Like, he can do anything. Honestly, he's one of those guys. But he doesn't look fast. But see, his legs are so long, his strides are massive. So like every time he steps, he's covering 12 yards.
This is why I'm fast as well, Quinny.
Yeah.
The problem is we can't accelerate.
To be fair, I will
20 minutes to get up to speed.
Ajer did get injured this weekend, by the way. Came off 39th minute. So I don't know how bad it was, but he did come off injured.
There you go. Sam predicting it. I thought there was if the next team's Chelsea, I think there was a segue I had. No, it's Brighton. But it's left us now anyway. But the next team we've got on this is Brighton. And Brighton, I think, has been everyone's favourite. I don't know about favourite, but everyone has been super high on Brighton towards the back end of this window. They're playing Football Manager for real life for all of us now. It feels like, they're going out, they're buying their wonder kids, they're trying to get back into Europe. They're really, like, look at all these incoming transfers, really. I don't think there's a bad one, transfer fees aside, but like quality of player, I don't think there's a bad one or even a questionable one really in there. Brighton, really strong window for sure. £131 million loss. I think I probably be one of the most significant figures we see in this little list. And yeah, some good quality players leaving, of course. Pascal Gross, a bit of a mainstay over recent times. But yeah, Brighton, the headline makers, I think, in this window.
Massively, aren't they? Like, this is the type of window you've got to have, right? To kind of squeeze into whatever is it a top 6 now? What is it? It used to be the top 4. It's top 8, maybe. Like, I don't know what it is, but whatever that, Brighton, any team that wants to, really try and climb the table, you're going to have to do something like this. And it looks hefty. It looks like the pockets might be a bit empty right now, but Jesus, man, they've brought some exciting players in, like really exciting. And like you said, Quinny, basically playing IRL Football Manager. I know they've been really unlucky with a couple of niggles already for Kadioglu for sure, but O'Reilly looks a bit more serious. But let's just say, like, they're not injured. Like, these are players that can come in to really impact Brighton's season quite comfortably. I don't know too much about the Gruder guy, but I know he's a really flary number 10 from the Bundesliga, and he's supposed to be really good. But outside of that, like, there's some real quality there. Ruter's obviously played Premier League football in the past. But like the Kadioglu one, like, we're talking about like a potential Real Madrid signing, potential like United signing, Arsenal. Like, for whatever reason, he didn't. Well, I know he obviously wanted to play football, but like otherwise he'd probably be just warming the bench sometimes more often than he'd probably like. But the Weaver signing's really clever. From Feyenoord, lots of legs in midfield. Minter, I think Newcastle have really dropped the ball on that one with the way that they're looking at at right wing. No disrespect,
but they didn't want to sell him. They didn't want to do that.
Well, I can't imagine they would, because
yeah, that was a PSR thing.
Okay, yeah.
They didn't want to do that at all. I think they were probably happier than they let on to sell Elliot Anderson for that much money. But Minter, losing Minter after the loan that he had at Feyenoord, obviously coming back, you're thinking, here we go, like time for you to join the party, especially since they wanted to sell Miguel Almiron and sort of move Murphy down into kind of like a depth role. It didn't happen. And Brighton here have just been really opportunistic. They've sensed a chance. Oh, Minter's available. We didn't think that would happen, even though we signed Ibrahim Osman, that they signed in January, and then obviously loaned back to Nord-Zealand and then joined in the summer, who they've now loaned to Feyenoord, where Minter was last year. Like, yeah. They've just kind of gone, oh, didn't see that coming, but let's give it a crack. In the same way that kind of like Arsenal late in the window have gone, oh, Raheem Sterling, nice. Sometimes the best signings are unplanned, and I think even though this was super early in the window, no one thought this was going to be possible, but they've just jumped on it.
It's got to be one of the most exciting squads in the Prem for me. From like a nerdy perspective. As Sorare players, like, there's some serious players here that I can see having impacts in Premier League football games, and I think this type of investment pays off. Like, one of those players, and it's probably Ferdy, goes for like £80 million at some point, maybe more. After a couple of good seasons, maybe, and it kind of just wipes off all. I know there's different ways to look at it, but the money they've outlaid here will definitely be recouped in one or two like massive outgoings, I think, in the future. 100%. I'm
really jealous of the fact that they have Kadioglu. I was desperate for Villa to sign him and play him right back. Like, just desperate. Like, Villa Emery likes I think he likes a right back that's not really a right back, and Kadioglu I think he's a midfielder at heart. He's ended up playing sort of left back and right back for Fener. He's played more left back than anything now, and obviously played left back for Turkey. So he's kind of ended up there. But I think he'd be brilliant at right back for Emery. And I was desperate for Villa to take a look there. But obviously it was never going to be possible. I mentioned during the Villa section about being outside of Europe allows you to spend more money, which may go against sort of like conventional logic, because, being in Europe equals earning more money. But without the UEFA cost controls hanging over Brighton here, they have taken the opportunity to spend a bunch of money. They're fishing in much bigger pools than they used to. They used to sign Enciso and Caicedo for 7 or 8 million from Paraguay and Ecuador. And now you look at the lowest figure there on the list is 25 million, 26 and a bunch, 26 and a bunch more. Like, this is indicative of Brighton's new status in the pecking order and the food chain. They are a better team. And in order to keep going and keep rolling, they don't have the opportunity to buy a bunch of 18-year-olds from South America and let them bed in. They have to pick up Gruder and Kadiolu and O'Reilly and start at a higher level and keep going. But yeah, I mean, you said it's a football manager window, and it absolutely is. And I think the last point I'd make on this is sometimes people confuse big spending with good window. Good, like big spending does not always mean good window, because sometimes you can spend money poorly. But it's really hard to look at this and think anything other than fucking hell, they've nailed it. Right? Like, this is really hard to think anything else. I don't know that much about Gruder, sure, but other than that, wow.
I think Barco got out on loan was one of the weird ones about this window. Otherwise, I completely agree. I actually seen Barco's debut last night. He did a pretty good job for Seville. But yeah, no, I never really thought about it in that context, because yeah, what Brighton has been quite famed for is getting Bissouma and Caicedo and these guys for 2 shillings and a packet of crisps and then selling them to Chelsea for all the money in the world, sort of thing. So yeah, they've definitely been up. And when you were kind of bringing that to my attention as we were talking there, like this is kind of like a City window. You know, I know it's maybe down a price bracket, but that's the City have been doing for the last 10 years, is get 6 guys at 30 million and put them in the squads, you know, generally. And then you're just lifting that quality of depth and the floor of the squad overall. So yeah, proper football manager. And yeah, I think that'll be a dynamic, Sam. Like the teams that aren't in Europe and the ones that are, we'll probably see throughout the remainder of this window, but that'll probably be something that does come to repeat itself like over the years, you know, like so yeah, interesting detail again, mate. Thanks for that.
I think that there will be clubs that yo-yo in and out of Europe. So we usually use the term yo-yo for relegation, so into Premier League and Championship and up and down. West Brom, I think, are the original yo-yo club, but Norwich have been similar, and you might find that Southampton are similar again recently. But I think there's going to be UEFA yo-yo clubs, and I think that Brighton might be one of them. I think the West Ham are another one who have spent a lot of money this summer, and they've taken the opportunity to do so while out of Europe for the first time in 3 years. This is just something that clubs are going to take advantage of, because genuinely, like, it's astonishing how crippling UEFA's cost controls are on clubs that are succeeding. Like, and I'm not just saying this as like a bitter fan. Like, I understand the need for regulation, but it has presented so many challenges that you would never think possible.
Yeah, definitely watch out for that one. I've heard contrary things about the UEFA ones, that they're better. So I don't profess to know them, but
so I think they're better unless you're in the Europa League and the Conference League.
Oh, okay.
So there's like a wage to turnover ratio that you have to hit, and the new proposed Premier League rules will have a wages as a proportion of turnover, and there's a percentage that you cannot exceed. And I think it's going to be set at like 85%. So it's quite high. But the UEFA, Europa League and Conference League threshold is set lower. It's set at like 70 or 75. So you can be in the Premier League and the Europa, and you can be creating a team that is beholden to the Premier League rate, but it would fall foul of the Europa rate. Of course, the Champions League is fine. You don't have to worry about that. But it would mean that, like, you'd be artificially under. Do you understand what I mean? If you're in the Europa League. I mean, that is just insane. Just insane. So I don't know what happens there, but we'll see.
Any final thoughts on Brighton from you, Harry?
No, not really. I just think they'll probably end up winning the race, I think, as far as this video goes, rankings-wise.
They'll be winning it. Chelsea is the next team we've got on, who I dubbed in many of my videos the comedy club of the summer, you know, because every time they were writing a transfer, they were writing a story, it honestly had you scratching your head, if not laughing, with what the hell was going on there. But they've made, honestly, countless transfers in this window. It's hard to even remember with Chelsea where this window began and, you know, like how much we've been through with them for it. But
I love the fact that you've got +4 at the bottom.
Yeah, and +15 low moves. How amazing is that?
Ran out of room. Sorry. Ran out of ink.
That's it, for sure. Inconsequential ones like some of the Brazilian lads that have then went back out on loan and stuff like that. You know, they're just not guys that are going to touch the sides, as it were. But we see Felix come back to the Prem again. There was a great tweet that went out about it. You've probably seen it, but it was like Chelsea pay 60 million to loan, or pay something to loan Felix. It was rubbish. He then goes to Barca. There's rubbish, and then they pay 40 million to buy him or something like that. And it's just like, what are they doing? But Dewsbury Hall comes in. Felix is in. Sancho, the loan we've seen on deadline day. We mentioned the Sterling thing earlier. It's kind of in tandem with that. But yeah, Chelsea, the comedy club. Can they do better this year?
I'm just going to leave all this one to Harry so I don't get in trouble. Because my thoughts on Chelsea are not pleasant. I'm going to go and get another drink while Harry explains it.
It's playing Football Manager in the wrong way, right? For me, like there's just so many signings here that I don't know. I just don't see. I just don't see the logic in bringing in like however many wingers they've brought in Sancho. I know Felix not a winger, but he's an inside forward. Neto, like they're good players, but it doesn't mean they fit into your, into your squad as nicely as you kind of want him to, or them to. Sorry. The tossing one's quite fun on a free. I know that might get overlooked, but I think, I know they've got a million centre backs, but there's always an injury at Chelsea with Fofana, Badiashile, and whoever else. They've obviously lost Thiago Silva, and I don't know. I just think this PSR thing's sort of skewed things, hasn't it? Like having to sell a Conor Gallagher and bringing in like a Dewsbury Hall. It's just like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Like, I'm not saying he's a terrible player, Dewsbury Hall, but Jesus, man, like, I don't know, man. Like the Felix one felt so forced. 43 million in the end. Did that need to happen, really? Like, did they need a João Felix with an Nkunku? Like the players they've got some incredible players, but it just feels like they're just buying a load of the same guys and not strengthening in areas where like they probably need strengthening. And I just think, I don't know, Chelsea's a mess right now. Like you could go on all day about these, but I don't know. I just don't see how it works out in their favor. I just can't see how most of these don't backfire in weird ways. It doesn't necessarily mean they're just bad footballers, but I just don't think they'll have success doing doing the type of buying that they've done. I just don't see it.
Yeah, we've already seen them kind of like, the first wave of Todd Bowley signings now with Sterling going out on loan. They've been kind of cast out, Aubameyangs and Sterlings and all the big money he spent when he first came in. Lukaku leaves now eventually as well. And yeah, this kind of change of direction of making them all youth players isn't really a saving grace. Like part of the thing with Brighton, the Minty transfer that Sam was talking about, and there's one or two other ones that are floating around there, but these people or these clubs, I think I used Vermeeren to Leipzig as an example of this when I was talking to someone recently, but really smart clubs don't treat players like they're fungible. Like an attacking midfielder is an attacking midfielder. Minty comes available. Oh, didn't know he was going to. We'll get him, even though we don't need him. We want him. Same with the Sterling thing. But with Chelsea, it definitely feels like football players are fungible, disposable, whatever. But it's just like, he's a Portugal international. We'll buy him. He's a France youth international. We'll buy him. It's and it's just, it doesn't matter anything else. Oh, we'll sell Conor Gallagher and we'll buy Kieran Dewsbury Hall because they're both English midfielders. It's like, who cares? They're as good as each other. We'll just play with the money and make sure we don't get in trouble. And I think that's really the sentiment with Chelsea. Is there's no like identifying on any of this. It's just trading and money. Profiles.
So when I was getting a drink, I didn't hear what Harry said, but just in case he didn't say it, and while I was getting a drink, I figured out the most stable way to just say the reason I hold Chelsea in such low esteem at the moment is because I really do hate the way they have treated their academy players, and all of this trading and stuff. And I think it's all part, like clubs do it. It's part of it. Eric Ten Hag the other day was like, we need I'd like to keep Scott McTominay, but I can't really afford to keep him because he actually does quite a lot for us in terms of the books. So the system is broken. But obviously Chelsea taking it to a bit of a different level. I think what really got it for me was just when they tried to sign Samu Omorodian from Atletico Madrid in exchange, for Conor Gallagher, and they agreed corresponding deals for £34.5 million each, and then that Omorodian deal falls through. And so Chelsea just go, well, just buy another one of your players. And I was like, well, okay, all that says to me is that you are desperate to get rid of Conor Gallagher. Desperate. And he captained your club more than 20 times last year. And he is an academy homegrown player. He is a Chelsea fan. Why are you so desperate to get rid of a player that is clearly very good, very committed, and has a very important role at your team? And, don't like the answer, but it is what it is. You can choose to play this game or you don't. They have to make a sacrifice somewhere because they have a transfer addiction and they have to sign 12 to 15 players every year. The only way to keep that to avoid a points deduction whilst signing 12 to 15 players a year is to sell your homegrown players. That is their choice. That is what they have decided to do. That is their model. It is not a case of we have to do it because of this. No, you created the scenario, you created the situation whereby you have to sell your own academy products because of your model. So I don't like it. I'm not the only person that doesn't like it. If you are a Chelsea fan out there and you think that this is the smartest thing in the world and it's 4D chess, fair enough. Like, we'll all see whether or not we're right or wrong on this in 3 years' time. But it seems to have really split the fan base down the middle here. And, there are plenty of fans who are very disillusioned, and I can't imagine how they feel because I don't like it and I don't even support Chelsea.
I definitely echo that kind of sentiment as well. And I would say, Peter, the difference maybe with Villa is like Conor Gallagher and a few of the youth players Chelsea have had through the ranks. We might even add Armando Broja into that conversation as well. I don't know, but they are like first team capable for Chelsea. Chelsea's first team level is generally quite high, but a lot of guys that they have let go over the years. I'm not a big Shalaba guy, but there's been other ones over the years. Conor Gallagher's also the poster child this summer, but they could have had maybe not a Man United level, but they could have had like a generation as such come through this last like 6 years or so of some good handy players like Hudson-Odoi. Obviously, we can see still playing in the Prem, and a few other guys. So no, I definitely echo that, Sam. I definitely.
Yeah, sorry, just to build on that, because from Peto, it's a very fair comment to a point. So, yeah, Villa are selling some academy players, but like these players that Villa have sold, like Omari Kellerman, for example, like he's played about 80 minutes of football for Villa. Also, I think he was signed off Derby 2 years ago. So there's a difference between that and a player who captained your club 20 plus times last year, a massive part of the fabric of and the culture of your dressing room. Like, very different. There's a difference in that between what Villa might have done and, say, for example, Trevor Chalobah, who one of the first things that this regime, Blue Co, Clear Lake, Todd Burley, one of the first things they did when they took over was give Trev Chalobah a nice, hefty 7-year deal. And I actually went back onto the Chelsea website to have a look at what they said about him and the quotes that were published on the website. When he signed the deal, and we're so delighted to have Trev, sign on with us for a number of years. He's an academy prospect. He's brilliant, and we look forward to seeing how he develops with the club. 18 months later, he's left off the preseason tour and not allowed on the plane because he needs to leave. So there is a difference, and I'm not exonerating Villa fully because I didn't love some of what happened this summer, and I'm okay with admitting that. There are definitely a couple of moments, like when you're signing Lewis Dobbin for 9 million, and I've barely heard of him, and I'm like, okay, and I'm not going to hide from that. But I do feel there are levels to this in terms of the treatment and in terms of the caliber of player.
Great comment here as well from Naja Boy. Harry Boy, how are you feeling about this Chelsea window? Are they better?
Are they better? I mean, it's hard to not be better when you've spent that much money, but in some ironic way, they could actually end up not being better because they have lost a few crucial parts like Gallagher. But I don't know, man. You just got to see this play out with Chelsea. I think historically they've had the best growing up playing in academies and stuff. Chelsea was the one academy where they just had everything. Every single year they were producing serious players. And it's just sad. Like, I'm not a Chelsea fan, but just like if I'm a Chelsea fan, I just feel like a bit alienated in that sense because like they just never ever seem to just stick with their own in that sense, or for long enough, or ever. Like there's just so many Chelsea players sprinkled across the Premier League now. Solanke's, like you said, Callum Hudson-Odoi. There's thousands. Like there's so many good players that if they just kept them, not spent a penny, they'd probably be okay. But it just hasn't worked out that way. And football is football, and yeah, they're just like I said, they probably played Football Manager in the wrong way.
There's a great comment here from Mikey as well, talking about Chelsea have been doing this for a while. I would say the Abramovich era was a bit different in the sense of like I think I know Abramovich did buy some guys himself, like, here and there, but for the most part, he's bringing in a world-class manager and then just saying, "Who do you want, mate?" And then he'll go Drogba, or he'll go this guy or that guy, and he'll just go out and get him for him. And in terms of like the scooping up of like 30 players, that's kind of how Chelsea bridged the revenue gap with some of the bigger clubs. Being able to sell nobodies for 2 and 3 million all the time, and all the loan fees that they accrued over the years. So it's kind of the same, but it's kind of not. I think like Todd Bowley and the Blue Co have got that Abramovich image in their mind and think this is what Chelsea's built on, and this is how we're going to operate, and they're trying to copy it. And like you say, Harry, it's playing Football Manager in a pretty bad way. Is the way it's turning out, I think.
It's kind of biting them on the arse at the moment, though, because they're doing these 7-year deals, and they're scattergunning transfers. They're buying 10 players, all at 10 to 15 million pounds each, or whatever, or a little bit higher in some cases, and saying, well, 3 of you going to be a success, and that's going to make it all worth it. But then the ones that are a success get a new contract anyway, which means that the scattergun approach at a low wage level isn't necessarily going to work, because you can't swallow the excess fat if you then reward all the successes with a new deal. And they tried to buy Victor Osimhen on the last day, and they offered him, from what I can tell, some pretty embarrassing wages because of their wage limit. And Osimhen was like, yeah, no chance, mate, not doing that at all. And so they have a commitment to a wage structure. They keep telling everybody that their wages are like in really good condition. The high earners are being shifted and no one's on more than, this much money, and great. But then when you actually try and sign that missing piece, that number 9 that maybe elevates you, he costs loads and there's no getting away from it. And they don't accept 70 grand a week for 7 years. It's just not how it works. Victor Osimhen is a £200,000 a week player. And if you don't want to pay that, you can't have him. So like, I can see the logic in their approach, but it's just starting to trip them up in these different areas. You can't get away from that.
I thought one of the funniest parts of the summer was seeing that the Jadon Sancho move is an obligation to buy as long as Chelsea finish 14th or above, which I thought is a lovely clause to go into a contract.
Well, they should be all right, but where have they finished in the last 2 years? It's not been great.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's Man United trying to twist a knife on them, or
that would be to do with the prize money you get for finishing 14th or above. But it is a bit weird.
But yeah, Chelsea seem to be the joke that keeps on giving this summer. Crystal Palace, again, a team I was really high on last year. I thought, like, especially when Glasner came in, the writing was on the wall. I think that Hodgson. Anyway, we don't need to get into any of that. But like, Palace was one of these clubs that finally seemed to maybe like get out of their own way. Is probably the best way of putting it. Put a manager in place that has some ambition, has some proven track record of getting results with an unfancied kind of club, and just hitch your wagon to him and off you go. And last season, January to the end, Glasner, I thought, hit the ground running. Palace looked super exciting, breathtaking, proper Bundesliga football in the Premier League. In this summer window, I was hoping there would be a bit of a charge on, a compounding in. They are going to lose a big star, of course, and they ended up losing 2 big stars, I would say, ultimately. And I'm not talking about Odsonne Edouard, but and ultimately, I feel that this window's been a bit underwhelming for Palace. They've got some nice players in here, but like Elise is a huge miss, and like none of those guys are close. Sarr can play the wing, right? But no, like Elise was artillery. Like proper, can drop the ball anywhere and shoot from range. So yeah, I don't know. Palace, they've made 27 million quid. I don't know if they're any better.
Yeah, that's a tough one, isn't it? Like, I completely agree with you. The Elise one's a massive loss. They got good money for him for sure, but yeah, what have they replaced him with? Ismaila Sarr, who, to be fair, is a very good footballer, a very different footballer to Elise. But yeah, like you said, is he going to impact Palace as much as Elise did? No. Did they pay? They didn't spend 50 million on him? So okay, fair enough. He doesn't have to be as vital. But yeah, I just worry that they lose a lot of those Elise goals and assists, and I just don't know where doesn't Nketiah and Sarr make up for that, and Kamada. I think it's a tough ask. I think it's a really tough ask.
I think they've lost a lot of momentum, is how I'd put it, and it's a big shame. End of last season, they were brilliant, weren't they? From January onwards, with Glasner at the helm, and they beat Villa. They battered Villa on the last day, and while it was a Villa team that had were possibly still hungover from the Champions League party from the Wednesday, and it didn't matter to them. You still like to put a team like that to the sword in the way that Palace did. They won 4-0 or 5-0. I've blanked the game from my memory. They battered them. It takes some doing. And so there was a lot of momentum going into the summer. And yes, they were always going to lose a player. It was going to be Gay or Eza or Olise or two. And it was nearly two, wasn't it? Let's be honest. Gay nearly went, but he didn't. But just like the speculation hanging over Gay didn't help. Olise getting done quite early probably did help. There's still speculation over Eza. Then the Joachim Andersen thing just comes out of nowhere and it starts to really dominate the discussion for like 7 to 10 days until it's finally done. And I'm still not convinced that wasn't a dream. Like, did that definitely happen? I don't know.
It's a weird move, isn't it?
It was just very sideways and just a lot of attention paid. I mean, I know Anderson's a good player. Like, I've got his rare. That's for a reason. I think he's really good. I'm actually quite pissed off that he's moved to Fulham. But like, ultimately, it was a very strange. It just felt like a very strange transfer. And just off the off the back of all of that, it's easy to lose a bit of momentum. I think Lacroix's great. I think Chalobah's great. I would have taken him at Villa. Apparently, that's the marker for a good player nowadays. Kamada's a great signing. Sarr's interesting, super inconsistent, a bit injury prone, but on his day, he'll have 5 days this year where he rinses someone. Could be worth 15 points. I'm not Nketiah's biggest fan, guys. I have to say it. Like I've never loved him. I think he's super limited. Mm-hmm. He's a good. I'll run the channel and finish, and that's cool. But that's not my kind of striker. You guys know that by now. I like a Salomon Rondon. Maximum 8 goals a year, but boy, did he give those centre backs some trouble. You know, that's my kind of guy. So I'm struggling with that element, and I'm not. Basically, I guess the way to put it is, I'm not convinced that Palace have rebounded from that kind of loss of momentum in the way that I sort of hoped they would. I was really excited for them this year.
I would agree with that. I'm an Nketiah fan. And I know he's quite limited, but that's what I like about him. He's a finisher. He's a goal scorer, you know. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he can make up for a deficit that, you know, Olise will give. And, Edward started the season last year quite good. Like, Edward got some numbers last year, maybe, I don't know, off the top of my head, like 8 goals, 12 goals or something. You know, it's nothing insignificant for Palace when they were only scoring 1 goal a week, you know, back then. So, yeah, I kind of echo all that. I'm a big Kamada fan as well. I think Nketiah could be like a good kind of super sub. The Anderson one was so perplexing, but it's just a pure horizontal move from Palace to Fulham for him. It's 30 million. It's like, what did they do with the money? They didn't really do anything.
You can't pay 26 million for a super sub if you're Palace.
Well, maybe it does now that Ayew and Edward are gone. But at that time when he signed, they were still in the building. And you've got to think he's covered for Mateta was the first kind of thing. But yeah, other players have moved on. So maybe he does kind of start a bit more.
Maybe. I don't know. Mateta's been great. Yeah. Mateta also, just to add to the confusion of it all, there's one thing I knew I was missing. Is Mateta was at the Olympics. And like how, you know, I know it's all their last seasons, they know him, but like, on the premise of trying to plan properly for a season, if we're going to talk about these players, you know, that went deep into the Euros missing and starting behind and all that, did Mateta get a break at any? Like, did it happen?
I think the Olympic guys got like 10 days or something. So, I don't know if he took it.
But he started, didn't he? In the first. So I don't know what happens to him physically. Like, the Olympics is so weirdly timed for football. And it was just another layer of confusion and difficulty for Palace to navigate. Like that on top of everything else we've talked about, it just didn't help.
Yeah, the Olympic final was something like the 12th of August, and then he played 45 minutes opening game of the season, circa the 18th of August or something. I'm looking at this in game weeks, so you're talking like a week later. Played 45, and he's played 2 consecutive. He's played 90, then 69. So a bit of a job share thing. And I think with goals and stuff like Mateta had a real outlier of a season last year, like his best season by a long stretch, I think, you know. So it's hard to imagine.
Should we have a quick look? He probably did. You've got to imagine that he was firing them in from all sorts of angles here. Let's have a look. Crystal Palace. Actually, this might take me slightly longer than I thought it would.
That's okay.
Oh no, here it is. 16 goals, XG of 10.9. A fair overproduction. Probably scored a couple of absolute bangers. He scored every week for like 7 weeks, didn't he?
Yeah.
So he probably scored a couple of absolute worldies with full of confidence. But yeah, maybe he is more of a 12 goal than an 18 goal guy, and maybe Nketiah can chip in with the rest. I don't know. I struggle with that. Like, I'm aware of my own shortcomings. I don't think Nketiah is particularly good, but then again, he's not my kind of striker. So am I looking at it fairly? I don't really know. And how does a player like that, who has existed solely within a big club ecosystem, how does he get on when he shifts out of that for the first time? And he's 25, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like
wow.
I
thought he was like 22.
I mean, he's taken him a very long time to fly the nest, and he's now 25 years of age, and he's sort of stepping outside of that big club confines. It's going to be a different style of play. It's going to be a different level of dominance for the team. There's a lot of questions and a lot of unknowns there, but it'd be very interesting to watch.
Yeah, I didn't realise he was as old as that. Great point. I did have high hopes that Palace could break into Europe this year. I don't think it's out of the question at this point, but it's really hard to see, isn't it?
I think in June I was pretty hot on this, and now I'm not.
Yeah, it's kind of same with me. Final thoughts on Palace from you, Harry boy?
Yeah, I just think it's a little bit meh, isn't it? When you've lost your best player by a country mile, and you're still left with Eze for sure. I just don't know if that offensively what they've brought in is enough to kind of to stop the Elise gap. Basically, I just don't think it is.
Yeah, I think we're all in unison with that one. And that brings us to Everton, who I don't really know how to frame Everton in general, to be honest with you. They had, hell mend them, or, well done to them for avoiding relegation last year, despite how hard the Premier League tried to take all their points off them every week, it felt like, And, really, when you look at it, their defensive record was really good. There was a lot of, numbers for Everton, except for points that actually weren't too bad,
Yeah.
At
home, they were great.
Yeah.
This genuinely great.
Nothing, isn't it? At home? No, on you.
No, I say at home they were great. At home they were like top 6 form. Clean
Top
sheets
6.
galore, and scoring goals and winning games. And away from home, it's like I don't really understand what happened as soon as they crossed that county border and left the local area. And I really do mean that, because they still managed to give Liverpool a rough ride, as they always do. They just disintegrated. Like I don't know what happened, but I think coming into the season, I was like, well, no matter what they do in terms of the market, they're obviously going to lose some talent, but they kept Jared Branthwaite, which felt like a huge win. And if they were to keep one of their players, of the several that were linked away, I thought their priority should absolutely be to keep Jared Branthwaite. Like they should much rather sell Onana than Branthwaite. And they managed to do that. And so I thought opening game of the season, all this hype on Brighton, all the new signings, but Everton are at home. They were pretty good at home last year. I put them down to win, and they got smacked. And then they got smacked again, and then they have conceded one of the most embarrassing defeats I've ever seen at the weekend. And now all of a sudden they look like the worst team in the league. And so under that guise, you look back at this list of incomings that you've put on the screen, and I'm like, who will save them out of this lot? And I can't pick one of them out. I just can't.
I like Lindstrom, but I don't think he's a saviour. Armando Broja is, I don't know, I've not seen enough of him to really definitively judge him, if you get me. But
Broja has scored 3 goals in 2 years.
Yeah.
He's also injured until mid-October.
But he is a big guy. You never know. Big guy.
So here's the thing. So the Liverpool Echo are reporting that Everton don't have to pay any money to Chelsea for Broja. Wages, fee, nothing until he makes a matchday squad.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And that's because he's injured until mid-October, so he's out for 6 weeks. They couldn't shift him, and they really, really, really needed to get rid of him on deadline day, and they left it late. Ipswich were going to get him twice and then pulled out both times, 1 because of cost and then 2 because of the injury. And Chelsea were just left like, we need to get rid of this guy. Like, he has to go. He can't be registered for us. He can't play. And Everton came in with this, well, we'll take him, but largely for free. And they had to go for it. And the problem with this is that this is bad for Broja. if Everton don't have to pay anything until he is registered for a matchday squad, that incentivizes them never to put him in the squad. Like, it incentivizes them to never do it unless Calvert-Lewin is injured, because
like proper breaking glass in case of emergency.
Yeah, they might run out of money soon. Like, that's the looming shadow over this, which is, this is not just a normal transfer window. Like, they are in deep shit, and no one really understands exactly how deep it is, but I think we all agree it's pretty bad. And then you've got Brozier, who, you know, is going to be at the mercy of that. He's basically at the mercy of Everton's bank balance. It's not a good place to be.
No, certainly not. I like the O'Brien signing. He seems to have hit the ground running. And alongside Brantwaite, like, I kind of thought that defensively maybe this might be a wee bit of a change for Sean Dyche and a wee bit of an evolution. You know, guys like Brantwaite and O'Brien at the back, it's a wee bit of something. And then when you see the Brozier kid, I'm just thinking big man up front for Sean Dyche. You know, maybe he'll be halfway handy.
I liked him a couple of years ago. I thought he was good, but like, he's tore his ACL and he's just never really, you know.
And a side note, I think Neil Maupay will probably do quite well in France as well. I think he could he could maybe get them a transfer fee in the summer if it's only a loan with no option on that one. But yeah, this not looking particularly good for Everton in terms of the transfer business there at all. And yeah, as you say, 3 games gone, 3 games lost, 2 scored, 10 conceded. Is with no points deductions this time, they're on no points. So let's see how it kind of shakes out. I don't think like Everton were like build to maybe do anything amazing this year, like Europe top 10 or anything like that. But with how resilient they were last year, like I kind of prefaced this with, like, I did have a wee bit of expectancy of maybe they would shock some people, like maybe get a bit of a run, maybe, you know, chase down 11th to 9th, maybe in an unspectacular fashion. But they made a horrible start. And then, like you say, looking at the actual list of the business here, the squad is weak, you know. Still got Coleman in the squad at 39 or whatever he is. And there's a few guys like that hovering around the squads. Yeah, it's probably not good for it.
But they've got no usable right backs, and Brantwaite's been injured. And yeah, I don't know. It's difficult. Dyche has already made some really weird comments. I don't know if you've seen them. Like, he said something along the lines of like, this football club's really strange, and this is a full paraphrase, but he was like, the football club's really strange. Everything's going really well one minute, and then it just all falls apart for no reason, and I have to pick up all the pieces and bring it all back together, and then we're really good again for a bit, and then it all falls apart again. I don't quite know what he's talking about, like if he's talking about like the mentality of the squad, or like some kind of witchcraft curse, or what. Like, I don't know what he is directly referencing, but he is sort of intimating that like it is the DNA of Everton to just collapse, and he's sort of giving himself a lot of praise for sort of piecing it back together and saving them over and over and over again, which I found to be one of the most Sean Dyche interviews of all time, and very weird. But I've been thinking about that ever since. That was after the second game of the season. I've been thinking about that ever since. What does that actually mean? And I'm still trying to figure it out, but trust me, I'm on it.
Yeah, the first thing that popped into my mind when you said that was maybe it's like people on top of him, like, you know, the world's going to end, we're going to get another points deduction, or we're going to get some sort of thing, and he's like, no, calm down, we'll sell Ben Godfrey, we can get somebody to buy Onana. Calm down, it's all right, chill out, guys. Like, nothing bad's going to happen.
I mean, look, it's really difficult to be the manager of Everton at the moment, I'm sure. I'm sure it's just a very difficult atmosphere to be in, and like, you can't separate the playing stuff from the fact that like they're in, like, off the field, like there is so much trouble. Like, it's too boring and don't have time to get into it. But like, I'm pretty sure they're about £400 million in debt with no way out, and a stadium half built. And if they dropped out of the Premier League, Jesus Christ, like they could. I follow some accounts on Twitter that are financially literate, and they're like, "Yeah, this club could be out of business in a year." So, just think about that through the season with Everton when you're like judging them. Like they have it tough right now.
Let's enjoy them while we've got them. That's what you're telling us, Sam.
I feel so sorry for the fans. I really do.
Yeah, you've got to. You know, Everton definitely one of the you know, good family kind of wholesome kind of terrace. You know, the old stadium and stuff. I know it's gone, but yeah, definitely. Fulham is who we come to next, and Fulham again. Like I was quite surprised by Fulham last year. You know, they punch really hard, they punch in bunches most of the time, quite inconsistent. It's kind of a bit of a Fulham thing, I guess. But you know, this window, especially looking at it now, like it feels like they've got their house in order again. They've kept the same manager for a couple of seasons now, and yeah, like I think Fulham are really in a good place here. A wee bit disappointed to see Willian didn't hang about for another year because it just felt like he was in the longest Indian summer we've seen in Premier League football. But I think Fulham are a really tidy place and they're exciting, you know.
I think they've bought well as well, considering they lost Palhinha for 44 mil. Was a massive, massive player for them last season over the last couple of years. But to bring in like Sander Berg for 20 mils, like really clever business, I think. Really clever. Like different profiles. Like Palhinha is obviously a way better tackler and a bit more defensive, I guess. And Sander Berg's, you know, a bit more box to boxy, which in some ways is obviously a good thing because they've got that Lukic who can probably do the Palhinha role somewhat. Smith Rowe, like I said, like from Arsenal's perspective, it's a great buy. From Fulham's perspective, I also think it's good because it's something they don't really have in that squad. I'm looking at their 11 and who came off the bench last last game. And he does offer something a little bit different. I know he started this game and has been starting. It's just nice to see him play football because we know he's a Premier League footballer, just maybe not at Arsenal's level. I think, it's fun, but still seeing like a Wobie and Adama Traore starting games of football, like it's just a bit like it's fine. Like they're not gonna, they're never getting into Europe with that type of squad, in my opinion. They'll stay afloat. They'll win games of football. They've kept hold of Robinson's probably the best bit of business, I think. Like he is like very capable of playing for a top 4, 5, 6 side easily. I don't know, like good goalie. Like they've got a good squad, but it's just like a good Premier League squad. I don't think there's much else to say about that, really. Like they'll just do fine. I don't think they'll exceed expectations in any way.
I think they're happy with fine, to be honest. I need to be careful how I word this, but like Fulham are... So two of my very good friends are Fulham fans, and okay, this is how I'm going to hide behind it. Two of my very good friends are Fulham fans, and they get annoyed at other Fulham fans for saying things like Premier League is where we belong or we deserve this, because they're like, that's really not Fulham. Like the modern history of Fulham is very successful by their own standards, but for a lot of the time Fulham have found themselves in the lower leagues or in the second tier or whatever. And that Europa League journey in 2010, maybe the Diego Forlan, Sergio Aguero final, they lost heartbreakingly to Atletico Madrid. That was the first step on what has been a bit of a new chapter. But for a lot of old school fans, like Fulham is not actually an established Premier League club, although obviously newer and modern fans think that because they've been relatively present for the whole thing. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, Harry, for them to be like a pretty decent Premier League team, they'll take it. Like every day of the week, they'll just take it. And what they want is players like Emil Smith Rowe, who you go to pay the money to go and watch play football. It doesn't have to be all like, Breda Hangeland at the centre of defence, nodding clearances away and hanging on for dear life. It can be a bit more fun. It can be a Joachim Andersen 70-yard switch pass. It can be Emil Smith Rowe dancing through. It can be Adama Traore defying physics. Like what they've built is a pretty fun team, and it's clearly like physically durable, capable of staying up, and it's clearly got enough in the tank. And to bounce back successive seasons from losing Palhinha, and last year they lost Mitrovic, like they're just doing really well, even to tread water, in my opinion. And a lot of that is down to the fact that they have a very, very good manager in Marco Silva, who for the second successive summer, they have managed to fend off Saudi Arabia because he's not going anywhere.
Because surely he's made enough money by now anyway, and his reputation surely is worth more to him at this point of the game, because he's definitely
maybe
he's definitely one of those guys that took a few steps forward and then quickly a few back, didn't he?
But didn't Pioli go to Saudi? Did he, or did it fall through? I can't remember. He was definitely going to go at one point, Stefano Pioli. So, well, you think he's got enough of a rep and he's made enough money, so you never know what they're offering. But I do think that it's the Laurent Blanc caliber of manager that should be out in Saudi Arabia, not the Marco Silva.
Yeah, actually, yeah, he's definitely had that kind of like the Watford Marco Silva kind of football here. We never really got a proper version of it at Everton, I would say. I was more kind of alluding to the fact that he got a lot of money to leave Watford for Everton. He's kind of rich enough, and everyone thinks he's a scumbag for doing that at the time and all the rest of it. So it was more kind of one on that. I think Emil Smith Rowe, like, this is like a watered down version of like Palmer to Chelsea in a roundabout way, isn't it? It's like the burgeoning academy guy, can't quite get into the big team, goes somewhere else and is the main man and grabs the bull by the horns. And I would think that might be the difference, Harry, for what your prediction is on them here, that they might be a wee bit of nothing. But a guy like this, it has been at the top of the table, fair enough, on the periphery of the team. But, you know, like, he's not going to slow down every week. And I think that's one of the things that did kind of hold him back a little bit last year, was like sometimes, you know, if Willian didn't turn it on, if Andy Pereira wasn't banging a free kick in, or, you know, like these kind of things, then the kind of route to go would disappear a little bit. But this guy in the middle, like, you know, he's got more than one string to his bow. And I think that's
100%.
a good thing for them.
I think they have their, like, Eze, basically, you know, comparing Palace to Fulham in that sense. They have that bit of flair. I know, at least it was
very similar clubs. Just ask Joachim Andersen.
Right, yeah, just one pays double the wage. Is probably.
It's just a bit nicer to live in Fulham than it is in Croydon.
Right. I was going to say, do you think he even moves house? Because he came from Fulham in the first place, didn't he? To Palace.
He was on loan there. Yeah, I don't know what the situation was, but yeah, I think he would have. I think he'll move. Maybe, yeah.
I don't know London that well, so I just thought I would ask. But not fair enough. Fulham, we reckon, firmly mid-table, shouldn't be anywhere near relegation or anything. And who knows anything else. Now, Ipswich are a funny one. I don't think there'd be too much time spent on this, but I think keeping the manager was probably the best thing they did this summer. He was definitely highly touted and might even still be the next Man United manager. Let's see how it shakes out.
Revisit that in 3 weeks.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. Yeah, for sure. A few more of those Ten Hag press conferences could get my job sooner rather than later. But this is like old school Championship promoted to the Prem transfer window, isn't it? Liam Delap, Arajan Muric, Smodic, Stara O'Shea, like some good guys from the Championship, and then some really good like academy kids you're pulling in, and it's trying to, you know, get a new band together kind of thing. So like, I really don't know. They've only spent money, so fucking well done to them for not bowing down to any of the crap and just having a go. Ipswich are back. What you're saying about Fulham, I remember when Ipswich got promoted to the Prem with George Burley 2002 or whatever it would have been. And they were a club I thought, like, oh, Ipswich, they shouldn't be in the Prem. They'll be rubbish. Obviously, they've got this big history of winning stuff in the 70s and whatever. But it's great to see them back now, you know, for the first time in like 20 odd years or whatever it is. And it's great to see for their fans' sake that all they did was spend 70 million. They didn't go and sell a big star. They didn't lose their manager. And yeah, maybe the caliber of these guys isn't phenomenal, but like Ipswich will be fighting for 38 games, I think.
Yeah, I love this. I love this approach. This is an established transfer approach for a newly promoted team that is trying to compete but not being stupid. And the way to do it is to go back down to the level that you were just at and buy the best players. And say to yourself, well, who was really good in the Championship last season? Like, who did we hate playing against? Who caused us trouble? That's 25 or under for the most part, and could grow with us. And if we don't make it, if we get relegated, we'll just get us promoted next year. They'll either keep their value or double it, or we'll just keep them next year and we'll just go back up again and become that yo-yo team. So a lot of this business to me looks like that approach. And a lot of them are 25 and under as well. Smodix is a bit older at 28, I think. But Delap is obviously very young. Muric is young. Phillips is a recovery attempt, which I quite like. I'm actually a fan of that. Like, punt, why not? Because Calvin Phillips at his best is a Premier League caliber player, so give it a go. The terms would have been very favourable because his stock could not be lower. Dara O'Shea, yes. Ogbene, yes. Great pace as well to have. Omari Hutchinson isn't on this graphic, but he signed and he was brilliant on loan last year. So he was a big get. And I think the best signing they've made is Jacob Greaves. He was one of the best centre-backs in the league last year in the Championship. And from what I've seen early on, he's not dropping down. He's Premier League player now. Like, he's been good. He looks great. And the approach works. It just does. And Kayust, he came in. I think it was either a loan with an option or something. He was supposed to go somewhere else first, wasn't he? Was it Brentford maybe? And then it didn't go. But Yeah, I'm a fan. I think it's a very well-established strategy, and I think Ipswich have done really well. And I think the most important point, Quinny, is the one that you opened with. They kept the manager. If the manager had gone, like, all hope is lost. It's all on him.
I just went and checked. I didn't see that Greaves guy. Somebody brought him to my attention because they told me he's the English Calafiore. He's got like the lot,
Yeah.
So when I didn't actually totally click that, to all that there, but I just went and checked. Oh, that's that guy, isn't it? And it is. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to watching out for him because I've heard good things. And like you say, it's a great strategy bringing those guys up, and you say, I get that 2 bites of the cherry out of them to bounce back, or that Greaves, if he is English Calafiore, then he'll probably go to Newcastle or something.
Yeah. It's about competing, honestly competing and trying, but not overextending yourself to put yourself in financial trouble. And it's a fine line, but the easiest way to tread that fine line is to buy the Championship's best and say, can you step up with us? And if you don't, it's okay, because you will probably hold your value. So I think they've just followed a really well-established playbook here.
Yeah. They're just playing with house money, really, aren't they? They get money for going up, and I think it's like, it used to be like 90 mil. I don't know what it is these days, but
it's more than that, mate.
Yeah, inflation's definitely had a good effect on that, I guess.
The Championship playoff final is called the 150 million pound game.
150 like these days, is it? Wow, I remember when Cardiff when it was at 90.
Yeah, no, it's much more than that now.
Well, so there's playing with 70 million, and like you said, they're players that can kind of yo-yo between both leagues and not lose too much value, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, solid enough. And Calvin Phillips, let's see if he can get back on the pitch and be his former self. But yeah, Janet Muric another shot to play in the Prem. But like what you said there, Sam, the biggest thing for Ipswich was hanging on to the manager, something that Leicester couldn't do. And I don't know if that's a blessing in disguise for them, because maybe the manager they've got coming in is maybe more used to doing this kind of thing than what Maresca would have been. I don't know, but the business here, like, honestly, I'm not going to lie. See, when I seen them sign Ollie Skip, I just wanted to, throw the computer away or something, because they sold Maddison and then bought Harry Winks. They then sell Dewsbury Hall and then they sign Skip. And I can't think of the outfield that you would need to put around Skip and Winks as a midfield to be a Premier League team. I just think they're way below the par for the course for it.
Well, the midfielder they're using is Wilfred Ndidi.
And Ndidi.
No, he's the one they're using next to those two. So that's their solution.
Is it enough to keep them afloat, though?
When you're replacing Maddison and Dewsbury Hall, like...
Look, I mean, I'm not a fan of that midfield duo either, Skip and Winks. I think that, look, it filters down the lower down the league you go, but if we start at the very top of the Premier League and you look at one of the hallmarks of, say, Arsenal's midfield, is that it covers ground. Like, it's so athletic. And you look at the centre-backs and the back lines that Arsenal and City and Liverpool are putting together, and it's the centre-backs are just physically just incredible. And the midfielders are too. Liverpool have just completely overrun Man United midfield using 3 pure athletes. So you filter this down. Obviously, the quality gets lower and lower, but you start to realise with Onana's success at Villa, you look at the way Newcastle play with that high intensity in midfield. Clearly, ground coverage, tenacity, duel winning, athleticism, aggression, it's really, really important at this level. In order to play against those teams, you need it. And Skip and Winks, they're nice on the ball, but I just don't see them having that kind of like athleticism and ability to cover the ground. Basically, I think they're too small to genuinely cut it as a pair as well. Like maybe one of them, and Ndidi is pure athleticism, so maybe that's the compromise. But I don't see Leicester's midfielders as something that can succeed in the Premier League this year. I think they've built their midfield wrong. And, no matter what they've done either side of that, then in terms of the defensive line and the forward line, I'm not sure if they can overcome it. It's kind of horrible to say because they've got some good players, man. Like, it's good to see Victor Christiansen back in the league. He's had a good start to the season. Fatawo is awesome. Like, he's awesome. Like, you watch him for 3 minutes, watch the way he moves, and you're like, player. What a like player. He's really good. He moves different to everyone else. So he's exciting. So they've got some cool pieces, but Yeah, I'm not convinced. Although I put an asterisk over that. I've barely seen El Kanous play, and you guys will have seen more. So maybe he's the... But he's not a midfielder, is he? He's going to be an attacking guy, right?
Yeah. He actually, funny you said that, actually. I saw a quote he mentioned today, came out in the press and basically said, like, these days attackers need to defend as well type of thing, and I can offer both. And to be honest, I remember looking through his SD stats last year, like, he's got a really high tackle rate and stuff. So, like, he does work off the ball. Like, it's not as if he's not a luxury player, for sure. I think I'm just looking at what they set up as on the weekend. I think indeed he comes in for either Winks or Skip, and they end up having this El Kanous in the 10 because it just didn't seem like they got, like you said, Sam and you, Quinny, like they're just not enough legs between Winks and Skip. It's one or the other next to Ndidi, right? If we're being really, really realistic about this.
Sure.
And then,
I watched them at the weekend against Villa, and like Skip and Winks were just run ragged by Onana single-handedly. And it's like that Villa are not the only team that have this kind of player in the field.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're going to come up against it with Declan Rice. You're going to come up against it with Rodri. Ryan Gravenberch is doing the same. Szoboszlai with the energy. Like they're gonna lose that midfield battle to so many teams. And one of those kind of unwritten golden rules of football is like win the midfield battle. I'm not convinced they've managed to set themselves up in that way that they can actually compete in that area. And I think it's going to be a shortcoming.
Yeah, the middle ground is the precious ground. Is definitely what we want to be holding there. Mikey Basson tipping El Kanous to be a Mahrez type for Leicester. I'm quite happy to see Edward maybe go get some first team Premier League minutes again. But yeah, like I think the managerial appointment is probably a decent one for Leicester. Like I kind of said, like I think like he's not going to mess about. He's not going to take too many chances. They might be a bit boring and a bit dry, which is why they've got guys like Winks and Skip. They just don't really do anything bad really most of the time. They're just like kind of meh. But yeah, like as Leicester, I think if they survive, they'll be happy.
But they're going to they're probably going to get a points deduction.
They've got the championship stuff, and they've got
and the reporting around this case, and I have to refer to the reporting of it as a journalist who doesn't know exactly what's going on, but everything you read here is they're in serious trouble. Like, consider that Everton, like what the punishment that Everton ended up with. And they actually pleaded guilty the entire time and worked very closely with the Premier League to sort it out. Leicester have dodged this at every turn. They went down to the Championship and they got stung by the Premier League, and they tried to tell the Premier League that because they're in the Championship, it's not their jurisdiction. They've got no right to charge them. And then the Championship tried to sting them, and they said, well, these charges relate to when we were in the Premier League, so you've actually got no jurisdiction over us. And now they've been promoted, and it's like, uh-oh. And so most of the reporting is like, expect double figures. So look at this Leicester team and ask yourself, can they stay up? Can they be better than 3 other teams if they have a -10? And like, you have to be a big, big dreamer to believe that they can do that. Big dreamer. That's 50 points.
Yeah.
Like they're just not. I don't think it's going to happen. At all. And they sold their best player this summer. Like, we haven't even really mentioned that, but they sold their best player. Yeah,
their heartbeat player, the kind of playmaker, which Ipswich kind of avoided doing. Like we said, they didn't sell anyone, which was great. But yeah, 30 million out for Dewsbury Hall. After a good year in the Championship, fair play to him. And yeah, none of the incomings, like, El Kanous maybe or something, but none of the incomings really spark inspiration, do they? Like, oh, that could be exciting, or oh, he might win a match. It's not really. It's Jordan Ayew, like he's going to press and run and be, giving his all, and that's kind of the end of it. So yeah, I think.
Shall I just say one more thing before we move on?
Yeah.
Would anybody like to buy my Harry Suter rare? He's gone on loan to Sheffield United, and he's going to be the best card on the platform. He also has Bahrain on Tuesday, I think, who he'll score 3 against. So it's on the market in season, 1 of 8.
He's very good for Australia. I think he'll be good in the Championship. I make you right. It's just that old Charlie, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he'll be good. So please come on down and place your bids.
That was kind of no, I don't think there's a joke here, but I don't think I've caught it. But Liverpool's transfer window was almost non-existent. We had Mamardashvili. They've signed a player and a half here. Signed Mamardashvili, but gave him back straight away. We'll loan him back. Wait for Alisson to go to Saudi Arabia next summer, probably for a couple of million to himself, and then they're bringing Federico Chiesa. A couple of outgoings here. I think this is like see what you said earlier, Sam, with the Ipswich thing. I kind of feel this way about Liverpool, that the smart thing for them to do is probably not fuck about too much this window. You know, like get the manager in, get his head under the bonnet. Right, what can you not work with, and kind of what do you think you need? And I think this is the result of that. To be honest with you, just steady the ship, keep top 4 this year, and then maybe we'll see some more business. I know Liverpool fans won't like to hear that, of course, but that's what this kind of screams of, isn't it? Is there's not been like a clear agenda coming into the window, and there's not been much adventure to go and back a manager and change the identity or give him his own players or do any of these kind of tropey things. They've tried to be a bit more standoff, calm in this one.
Yes. I mean, so earlier in the show, I said I admire teams who have self-awareness and make a very big decision to do nothing. Now, obviously, Mamardashvili and Chiesa is not nothing. But when Liverpool failed to sign Zubimendi and said, well, there's no one else we really like, so we're not going to bother. Fair play. Like, fair play. Don't make signings for signing's sake. Don't make signings that will labour your wage bill for the next 4 years because they were never good enough anyway. If the player that doesn't want to come, whatever. Being publicly rejected wasn't great. I get that. And fans want signings, they get antsy. But if you don't think anybody else can do the job, just wait. Just wait. Like, what if Real Sociedad have a stinker of first half of the season and they're down in 12th and Zubimendi's like, actually, I think I made a mistake. And they go back in January, hit the release clause, come back in, whatever. Maybe another target emerges. But in the meantime, all that's happened is that Alexis McAllister, Gravenberch, and Szoboszlai have been the best midfield 3 in the league. Like, they've been awesome. So I just have a lot of respect for Liverpool for just being like, no, we've got a new manager. He wants to check his squad, see what works. Oh, Carvalho is playing really well. Probably sell high on him. Buy the player we want. If we miss out, don't panic. Don't buy someone for the sake of buying it. Mamardashvili, that is cheap. That is cheap for the best young goalkeeper in the world. I cannot believe they have got him for that much money. I know that he's not coming for a year, but that doesn't matter. They've got Alisson. He's even better. And Chiesa, that's a gamble I would take every day of the week in the hope that he can find some pre-injury form. So I've come out of the summer with a lot of respect for Liverpool. It's easier for me to do that because I'm not a fan of Liverpool. So like I'm not panicking about the lack of signings, and I understand why fans do that. But like I look at this from a very neutral perspective and think fair enough, just fair enough.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think as well, like, I was quite surprised Vandenberg didn't stay because he did seem to do pretty well in the Bundesliga, and I just thought that might be a guy they held on to. But I'm with you all the way on the Chiesa one. At 11 million, it's a really hard deal to not do, isn't it? But yeah, I suppose if it's any more than that, you begin to question it. But at 11 million, it's an absolute free hit at a potentially world-class player sitting on the bench. So yeah, I can dig it. 19 million in profit.
Take that all day, didn't you? They've shaved off some sort of under 23, not dead wood, but players that I couldn't really see having that much of an impact, let's be honest, this season, and brought in a player that could be amazing for them if he stays fit for 1/5 of the price that they've got the outgoing. So yeah, and the Mamardashvili one just like incredible business, isn't it? At 26 million, it's the goalie for the next 5 to however many years you want to keep him, type of thing. When and if Alisson leaves.
I think the only way that this could come back to bite them is if the 3 players that have not got very long left on their contract, so that's Trent, Virgil, and Salah, if they were looking to Liverpool this summer and thinking, show me your ambition, make some signings, and show me that we are challenging for not only the Premier League, but the Champions League too, and do it using incomes, and then I'll make my decision on my contract off the back of it. If that's what they were waiting for, if that's what they were looking for, then they haven't seen it. Because there's no way that Mamardashvili next year and a punt on Chiesa constitutes we are in win now mode. There's just no way that those two things marry up. So if this does end up persuading Virgil, Trent, Salah, any of those 3 to say, I just don't think Liverpool are ambitious enough for me, I'm going to go. If that is the case, then that is where this approach that I'm praising, it does fall down. And I appreciate that. And I'm sure that that's what Liverpool fans have in the back of their mind as well. And Salah's comments on Sunday weren't helpful. That's really whipped them up into a bit of a frenzy, because Salah has made it sound like Liverpool haven't even spoken to him about a contract, which doesn't sound great. So I accept that there's potential flaw in the planning, and there's potential for this to go wrong. But context is key. Context is always key. And 3 wins from 3. They've been magnificent. Like, I would hope that Virgil and Trent and Salah are looking at this team and the way they're performing and thinking, actually, this is pretty good.
They should be quite safe to retain top 4, you would think.
Oh yeah, like they're at worst the 3rd best team in this league. Like, and the gap between the top 3 and the rest is big. No one's closed it.
I was a bit worried for Slot coming in and just thinking it could have been a bit of that, you know. But he started good, and like you say, this team is quite strong. There's a great comment as well that comes in from Mikey again a few times tonight. But a lot of Liverpool signings last year are now in their 2nd year, and that's the midfield 3 that you've even mentioned. I think they all fall into that category. So they're maybe kind of, you know, reaping what they sowed this summer. You know, maybe a wee bit of that on the go as well. But yeah, I think Liverpool should be top 4, top 3 quite comfortable on the face of it. Arne Slot aside, let's see how it shakes out throughout the year. Harry, Liverpool thoughts? Did they try and sign you?
No, Everton came in though. I even rejected them, to be fair.
Dwight McNeil brought you to training, didn't he?
That's a hell of a commute, mate.
That is a hell of a commute, to be fair. Down to Merseyside. No, I don't know. I think they might revisit this in Jan, like what Sam was saying with the whole ambition thing. Does that maybe come into play January and go, okay, we're in 1st or in 2nd, and you know, by December, Jan, we'll sign X player. You know, what are you 3 saying, type of thing? Because you know, it all depends in like where they're at that point, right? Because that's when they can sign more players, and we'll get a better feel of where they are on the table, I think. So maybe revisit it in Jan.
There is a conversation you can have with a player on Football Manager, isn't there? Where like you can sort of convince them to stay. And you can pick from a drop down of reasons, and one of them is, we've got some really big plans in the transfer window. You want to stick around for this, and
I just lied to him basically.
Yeah, and that builds in a promise of sign great players that you then ignore, but it keeps them at bay for 3 months, and then they kick off, and you go, "Oh, shut up! The transfer window's closed. You can't go anywhere." So that's I know their game. Trust me, we've got big plans for January. Trust me, big plans for January. You just see. Okay, boss.
We're going to make some big moves in January.
You've
never seen a January window like this. It's going to be amazing. I think part of the confusion I had with the Vandenberg was the fact that Virgil might leave, but also, like, you know, for the last little period for Klopp, it's been Virgil plus who? You know, is it Gomez? Is it Quansah? Is it Kanate? And whatever. Maybe Matip. Yeah, maybe this guy could partner VVD, and then maybe, like, he's younger as well. It's reasonable to assume he could maybe just stay there longer than Van Dijk does. But hey, you know, they've cashed in on that one, and I found that surprising. But yeah, Liverpool, we fancy them to do quite well. Man United fans always fancy that they're going to do quite well every year, it feels like. I'll quote Jamie Carragher. I seen a great tweet from him this morning, and I'll paraphrase it. But for as long as Marcus Rashford is the best attacker, or one of the attackers at Man United, they are not going to win the league, and they are not going to be winning a cup. And Xerxes comes in for 37 million. We've had
they won a cup last year.
European Cup, I think was the quote.
Oh, okay.
I did butcher it. Sorry. Okay. Xerxes comes in this year. Last year we had Højlund coming in, and you know, I think the main problems for this Man United team has been the wide areas. We see Sancho go out, and like really that they've redeveloped their defense or whatever. But I don't know, 175 million. No goals, really. Xerxes maybe 10 goals, 15 goals, whatever he gets. But I don't know. I think Man United have missed a trick this window and not upgrading the wings.
I don't know. I didn't watch yesterday's game. I've seen a few bits, obviously, with Casemiro sort of leading the way as far as the negativity is concerned. But people are saying like, Man U are missing like a really, really technical six, that can kind of progress the ball and take it off the centre back's feet and sort of progress it that way. Similar to what maybe Gravenberch is doing now for Liverpool. And I'm not hating on the Ugarte buy, but he isn't that. He is a Paulinia sort of regen, a little bit younger in that sense,
and much smaller.
And he's not 6'4". He's probably like 6 foot max, maybe.
No, he's tiny. Well, not tiny, but he's a small guy.
I don't know.
He's got little arms.
Yeah, well, that's just the T-Rex syndrome. You can't really do much about that. How tall is he? I think he's 6 foot on the dot. So I wasn't
disagree, but okay, I believe you.
Well, that's so for score that I know they get them wrong. To be fair, I think he's a fairly sized man, but he's not Paulinia, and I just don't think he's technical enough to do that job that Man U don't have in that midfield. Because we saw yesterday, Manu's not that. Like they're just buying the same players over and over again, a little bit younger and whatever, right? Comparing him to Casemiro. I like the De Ligt. I don't mind the Mazraoui. He's just basically, it's the Ajax regen, right? Half their team's the Ajax team of, when they shocked Real Madrid a couple of years ago, right? When Frankie de Jong was involved and all that fun stuff in the Champions League. But from what I heard yesterday, Xerxes was absolutely horrendous. And I know that's one game, but...
No, he wasn't great.
I don't know. I just think... And I know we haven't seen Euro yet, and he does look like, a potential sort of generational talent that, Madrid was sniffing around but weren't willing to pay any money for. Sounds a bit... yeah. But
they don't pay for players anymore, mate. Come on.
They have to come for free. That's just the policy there, which, I mean, fair enough. They're not spending any money on fees, but I don't know. Who they lost? Sancho. I know Sancho didn't play there last season. McTominay's a massive loss, I think. Just probably for the dressing room. Again, academy play, all that fun stuff. Wan-Bissaka, is he that much of a loss?
Not really.
I think Mazraoui's a little bit of an upgrade there. Yeah. Varane's probably a big loss, isn't he? If we're talking, I know he had his injuries and getting on a bit or whatever, but he was still a decent centre back.
He got injured in his first game for Como.
Did he really? That doesn't surprise me.
He just can't play football anymore.
He's just broken. Yeah, there's some players that are just broken. Greenwood, I know he won there either, but I don't know. I know he couldn't play there from for political reasons or whatever, but
good on them for just moving on from that.
Yeah, 100%. You can't knock that at all. But he's lighting up like Ligue 1, and then you've got Xerxes looking, I don't know, like whatever he does yesterday for double the fee. So I don't know. I do worry. There's Man United tax all over that incoming, sheets.
Yeah,
a lot of those players are very much inflated, but it's part of the game.
So there's a comment there from Tobias about Ugarte. Ugarte has legs though.
Nah, he don't. I watched it play.
Covering the space around Kobe. So I agree with the vein of logic that's running through this. Ugarte does cover ground. He does. He counter presses. He's very aggressive. He is not the quickest, but he is
not quick.
Like, he gets around. He's got a lot of energy, he's Uruguayan. That's how we're going to put it. But and this is the thing. So,
but he's not Valverde. He hasn't got Valverde pace.
Of course, no one is Valverde, sadly. But so here's how I'll put this. Like I look at those players and I think all of those players on the incoming list, they suit Ten Hag. So on the one hand, well done Man United for correctly identifying players who suit the manager's tactics, even if most of them are just Dutch or from Ajax. So it's pretty obvious anyway. And by the way, 6 players now Erik Ten Hag has signed that just played for Ajax.
Yep.
So it's Mazraoui, De Ligt, Anthony, Onana, Eriksen,
Martinez,
and Lisandro Martinez. So, as good as their scouting is, sometimes 6 players from Ajax. Come on, lads. He's only been there 2 years. So, from one perspective, well done for correctly identifying players that suit the manager. However, it all falls down if you've made a bad choice of manager, and it's really hard to escape the idea that they've made a mistake to keep him and they've made a mistake in pursuing with him. And from that perspective, then you ask yourself, well, why would you sign a bunch of players for a manager that probably isn't the right guy in the first place? So I don't really know where I fall on United. I'm basically bang in the neutral zone. I respect good scouting for a system, but I dislike the possible lack of foresight that's going on at United here, where they kind of reluctantly carried on with Ten Hag after interviewing several candidates, nearly firing him, and then just going, yeah, fine, we'll keep you. Spending 170 million on these new players that suit him brilliantly. And the next man won't be him. So where do you stand on that? I really don't know.
I'm kind of overall with you on that, but I don't think this is as bad as signing like Lindelof and Bailey and some of these other guys that they've been signing over the years. That it's a guy that's signed Mourinho, I think it was in those cases, but then the next manager might not fancy them. The next Man United manager is probably going to fancy De Ligt. He's probably going to fancy Mazraoui to a greater or lesser extent, And to come back, they've reinforced the defence here, 140 million. I think someone done the maths for us as just the defensive players here. And the reason I said the wings earlier is, again, there was some comments back, and I think one or two of you were maybe a bit perplexed. That's what I brought up with it first. Rashford, I've got a bone with, of course, but also Amad Diallo. He couldn't get a game for Rangers when he was up on loan here. I know he was okay at Sunderland. I know he's had a few moments at Man United. Whatever.
Quinny, the fans are very excited about Amad Diallo.
Amad Diallo, Rashford, Garnacho, the wee guy. He's got something about him. He's definitely got something there. And Anthony, of course, we all know the situation he's in. But the problem with those wingers, right, is when Fernandes isn't in the team, how are they going to score goals? How are they going to open teams up if they're wingers? I'm putting shade on them, right? Maybe you want to back them up and you say they're better than what I think they are, fine. But I don't, and I'm not anyone in particular, but just anyone out there, but I don't see Man United without Bruno or without Garnacho, how they create chances, how they score goals. And I think when you're looking at that in the summer, surely they should have been bringing in another wide forward, someone to upgrade on Diallo, Rashford, Anthony.
So Xerxes is not the most prolific striker, but he is very good at linking things in the final third and very good at sort of drifting wide, creating, combining. So some of that creative burden actually sort of almost ironically comes from Xerxes, from one of the strikers. And I am interested to see what this team looks like when Xerxes and Højlund are in the same team. Mm-hmm. I don't really know what the setup is going to be. And that does kind of bring me on to my other bugbear, which I'll come to in a moment. But I am aware of the fact that I'm criticizing United a lot at the moment, but they still have a lot of players that they intend to integrate into this team. So we're not really seeing it in full yet. Ugarte hasn't played a minute yet. Let's see how that affects things. He will be better than Casemiro. He's going to be given an ocean to cover. Tactically, it's still a bit flawed, but he'll do better than Casemiro. Lenny Yoro, injured, won't play for several months. Xerxes supposed to combine with Højlund. Can't play right now. So let's I'm just reserving 10% of my judgment here for when it actually comes together in the way that I think Man United see it coming together. But it does kind of lead me on to that point where this formation that Erik ten Hag has decided to play, he tweaked his system at the end of last season, maybe 4 games to go, and it was okay. And then it beat City in the cup final. But City's a very specific game, right? It's very you have a plan for City. It doesn't work against anybody else. But he has taken it and he's brought it forward into the new season. And he is playing 4-2-4. Now, off the ball, a lot of teams right now are in 4-2-4 for a mid-block structure. And they try to use the 4 across the front to try and prevent passes into the midfield. And they have 2 in the middle and then they have a back 4. It's a high line. It's very compact. Ten Hag is using a 4-2-4 in possession structure. And it is a disaster. And it is causing huge problems. And the reason Casemiro ends up giving the ball away at the weekend, and the reason Kobbie Mainoo gets grouped by 4 Liverpool players with no outball for the 3rd goal, that's a possession structural issue. And I think they're going to crack on with it for the foreseeable future, and they have bought players for that. And I look at it and I just think it can't work. It just cannot work. I have the benefit of comparing it back to Unai Emery's possession structure, and I realize that I'm spoiled. I'm super spoiled because what I watch, that situation that Kobbie Mainoo found himself in at the weekend, where he lost the ball and the 3rd goal, he had nothing to pass to, and his body position was in the wrong place. Villa play that pass, and it leaves the midfielder within a second, and it goes to the opposite centre back. That's how Villa switch play, and this stuff isn't in place at United, and that's why I keep coming back to this point where I was like, Ten Hag's not going to last. Why bother signing all these players for him?
Just tough. Yeah, it's tough to see it work. To be honest, in such a short space of time with like all the signings, because they're all signed basically to start games of football for United. Obviously, like maybe I know Yora's injured, but if he's fit, does he start ahead of either De Ligt or Martinez? Probably not, if we're being honest.
He'll get his games. They'll
He'll get
work
games, yeah.
Like, Ten Hag, as much as he complains about the amount of centre-back partnerships he has to use, he doesn't half go through them voluntarily. Have you noticed this? Every game so far is like, right, let's sub the centre-backs 80 minutes. I'm like, mate, you can't complain about it and then do it voluntarily.
I don't know. I worry. They need Casemiro out of that club ASAP. And Ugarte, the bar's low, isn't it? If we're going off yesterday's Casemiro performance, he doesn't have to do too much to improve on what I know. Casemiro apparently played well in the first game, but whatever, right? He's not good enough, and his legs are gone. Simple as. So let's replace the legs, and like Sam kind of said, sort of take it from there when everything's back, Højlund's back, and all that, all that fun stuff.
Man United are wishing and dreaming to get back into the Champions League this year. I cannot see it. Any difference from you guys?
No chance.
No, not at all.
Even if they get top 5 spots, qualify? Could they? I don't think so. But
look, there's more to come from United. Their vision of their team we haven't seen yet because of the injuries, but I just don't know how. I don't know how this team under Erik ten Hag bridged the gap to Villa, to Spurs, and potentially to Newcastle United with no European football. Like, Newcastle haven't been as good as I thought they would be, but I'm still looking at this and thinking I just don't know how they bridge that gap.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I thought that would be Newcastle next, but I forgot. Also, we've got Man City. I didn't do complete alphabetical order. Should have had Man City before Man U, and it would have been straight on to Newcastle. That'd have been swift. But Man City didn't actually have much going on this summer at all. Echeverri was signed super early, and he's obviously not going to kick a ball, I don't think, for City until January. Savio's in, hit the ground running, and it's the return of the legend. Silky Ilkay is back in town. It's more the outgoings for City, I think, made the headlines. I don't think many people expected Julian Alvarez to leave. Maybe Liam Delap. I think maybe some people maybe fancied he'd hang about as like backup or something like that. And Cancelo's been the saga that's been forever ongoing. I don't think there's too much to talk about when it comes to City overall. But any outgoings that catch your eye, Harry? Anything on Echeverri or Savio?
I think, Alvarez obviously leaving it is a huge miss, but does Savio and Gundogan make up for it? I'd say 1,000,000%. In some ways, obviously not the same player, but Gundogan, we've seen him play at Barcelona last year, a bit more forward in that sense. He's not going to press as an Alvarez would. Savio, more of a winger than what Alvarez is, of course, but like from an attacking output perspective, I think those two could muddle in to do what an Alvarez would do, if that makes sense. Maybe not from a pressing perspective, definitely Gundogan. Savio can press. I think it's good money though to get 60 mil for Alvarez. Like, I know he is world class. I love him, but it's good money. And to get Savio in for 30 and Gundogan on a free man's, it's wicked business, I think.
We did all feel at the time when they signed Alvarez that they really picked River Plate's pocket. They didn't. I don't remember what the fee was, but it was like bugger all. Like,
it was 10 or 11 million.
It was stupidly low. Yeah, it was ridiculous. Unbelievable.
So proper Man City trading here. Pick up those guys for just show up, and River Plate are buzzing. They get 12 million. They're skint as fuck, and but cheers, Man City. You pay it all up front. Oh, brilliant! Cheers, guys. and then they do this kind of number. So. Yeah, I don't think there's much more to really kind of rattle in with City, but kind of know the animal that is. Alvarez, I think, is a very much an unsung hero, although people do sing about him. But he's not the glamour player over the last couple of years, like the Haaland and the De Bruyne or whatever, but he's been a hugely important part of this team. And I don't think he's going to make I don't think his absence will make a difference to how City shake out this year.
So, any things I'd add would be, I was pretty sure that Arsenal were winning the title this year and they were finally going to do it, until City re-signed Gundogan, and it just spooked me. Because it doesn't take much of a percentage swing for it to go back to City, and Gundogan is probably going to score 3 massively important goals this year that were worth 9 points that they didn't have. And it's just I saw that as Arsenal's worst nightmare, basically, that re-signing, and it came up as a real surprise. I am questioning what the depth up front is looking like now that Alvarez is gone. I don't know if the plan literally is Gundogan. and maybe that solved the issue for them. Who knows? He played a bit of false nine for them back in the day. Savio is blowing my mind, not just because he's great, which we all know, but because obviously he wears 26, and whenever he plays on the right wing, he looks exactly like Riyad Mahrez, and it's just annoying, like, because I keep thinking it's Riyad Mahrez. And it's like I have to keep like mentally adjusting to the fact that it's not. And I compare it to, I don't know if you remember this, but obviously Eden Hazard used the number 17 at Chelsea initially until he went to 10. And then one summer, Chelsea signed Kovacic. And Kovacic took 17. And they actually dribble in a very similar way. And they have the same big arse. And it was this, I was like, what's going on? Why is Eden Hazard dribble? And it was Kovacic. And it's when a player that dribbles and moves the same, takes the same number, it really fries my brain. And it's happened with Hazard and Kovacic, and now it's happening again with Savio and Mahrez.
Oh, Mahrez has been a big, people talk about teams replacing players. Like Mahrez is a player that's not really been replaced at City since he left, and it's been good seeing that duality on City's wings again, because it has just been like one wing as being a winger, and then the other one's maybe being like a cheat code forward, or there's something else a bit funky going on with it. So, yeah, big fan of Savio, and I think he'll work out as a bit of a W as a transfer. Although City were kind of forced to keep him, they weren't allowed to Girona him again or do any other stuff, and I think they probably would have if they were allowed to. So maybe a happy accident for City.
Could have left him at Troyes.
They could have left him in.
Now that is the so rare card to earn. If Savio ends up at Troyes, because they got promoted to Ligue 2 again on a technicality, because Bordeaux went out of business. So Savio in the second division would have been something. Bit of a wasting contender, but probably 100 every game, right?
He's under 23. He's going straight into my best under 23 line.
Alongside Ambrose. What's the defender's name? Is it Ambrose? No.
Oh, Mendy.
Yeah. Formosa Mendy.
Yeah.
Formosa Mendy. I don't know, I had Ambrose in my head there. Of course. Newcastle, I tried to segue for Man United earlier on, but Newcastle, I was giving them tons of shade last summer. I thought they would manage their budget horribly, to be honest with you. I thought their squad was way out of balance last year, and I thought this summer, with no European football and yada yada, some other stuff maybe happens, maybe it would start to make sense with another window. Some more players come in, some of those edges get rounded off or whatever. And I think they've kind of had their hands tied behind their back in this window, kind of the sins of yesterday kind of catching up with them, sadly. But not really much has happened here. They missed out on Mark Guy, whatever, at the deadline. But there wasn't really too much swimming around Newcastle. It's not like they were really trying to go out there and, bring lots of players in or try and, really, who would they like to this summer? Kind of nobody. Mamadashvili, somebody. And goalkeepers, that's been the only thing really. It's about keeping Isak, it's about keeping Bruno. Those two things, number 1 and 2. Gordon was close to going to Liverpool for a minute as well, it felt like, and Joe Gomez might have went the other way. But looking at it now as it sits, Newcastle, I think they've done their business kind of similar to what we said about Liverpool in a roundabout way, but it feels like they've kind of done their business already, because nothing in this window, the loss of Minty and Anderson sure depletes them, but nothing in this window really changes what I think of Newcastle.
No, not really. Look, Quinny, in case you don't know, a lot of Newcastle fans are absolutely devastated about this window. They're just gutted that steps forward weren't really taken. There's an understanding about the PSR handcuffs. Obviously everybody understands that. But I mean, I spent the afternoon at Sky Sports with Pete Graves, who's a famous Newcastle fan, and he's been trying to explain to the fans why there were limitations, and he's just getting it in the neck just from people that are gutted. They're just emotional when they're gutted. They want to see Newcastle step forward, and it's not really happened. I mean, look at those incomings. Is that catapulting them back into the top 4? I thought heading into the summer, back in June, that Newcastle were the front runners for 4th. I thought no midweek football was going to be a real blessing. They're going to play really high intensity football again. They won't have as bad injury luck. They're going to be ones to watch. Look, they haven't played particularly well so far this season, and they have 7 points, which is a skill in itself, and it means they've not been left behind. But it is difficult to look at the performances. And again, that loss of momentum and think, yeah, this team are really going places. And that's why the fans are a little bit upset. They got really focused in on Mark Gay, and they didn't get him. There was seemingly a very late third dash for James Trafford on deadline day. Didn't get him. And then there was a very weird thing that popped up at about 5 p.m. that they were trying to buy Anthony Elanga for 50 million, which would have been bizarre. Just so weird. And thankfully for Newcastle, I think, not that Elanga's a bad player, but that didn't happen. He's not a 50 million pound winger, is he? But there was just, at the end of the window, there was an element of desperation to Newcastle's moves. They just about got themselves in shape ahead of the June 30 PSR deadline, and then they didn't really build on it. Again, I think file it under Palace, file it under you've lost momentum, and it's a shame. They're still a very good team, but are they going to hit the heights that we thought they might in the summer? Same as Palace, possibly not.
Definitely feels like the wind's been taken out of them a little bit, doesn't it? I mean, Tonali coming back, that was a big thing for them.
Yeah.
I think he come off the bench on Saturday or Sunday.
Well, he played in the Cup and he got an assisted like a minute.
Did he really?
I mean, imagine being out for 10 months and there being all this hype building around you, and you can't, and then you play in the Cup and you get an assist in a minute.
Let's hope he didn't have himself on for an assist.
Just Harold.
sorry.
He's changed his ways. He's been in rehab. He's a reformed man now.
Yeah, him and Paqueta were holding hands in rehab. All dandelions and daisies. Anderson for 35 million is just blowing my mind a minute. Can we just?
It's not a real transfer.
I know, but then why is Odysseus going for 25 million as well? What's
also not a real transfer.
Right, so they're all just fake ones. Fair enough. Yeah, it's just a load. I don't know. I'm just looking at that income.
When I say what I mean is I should probably cover myself professionally. Everything that happened between June 25th and June 30 is not real. Like, it's a separate window, and you can't benchmark anything against it because it was a whole different ecosystem of transfer that just, it was a kind of needs must thing. Doing the transfer tracker all summer for ESPN, and like my boss was like, well, compared to Elliot Anderson, I was like, you've got to stop saying that. That's not fair, right?
Yeah. He's not the benchmark. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I just told you off there. I didn't mean to.
No, that makes sense.
Well, Quinny, the reality is I tell Harry off every day. So
yeah, this is a daily occurrence.
I only get that when I'm dishing out strays to Gonzalo Villar or Aston Villa or something like that. Newcastle, I had them as one of my favourites to break top four this year as well. No, midweek football, I think, is a huge blessing. And really, like, you know, incomings and outgoings to one side, like, their best 11 is still highly formidable in the league. You know, I make, you know, if they can keep everyone fit, I wouldn't rule out that they do crack top six again. And then it's just about how many goals Isak and Gordon can pull together for how high they can go. Is maybe them not selling anyone, Harry, the biggest thing of this window then?
Yeah, keeping hold, like you said, keeping hold of Gordon, Isak, and Bruno is like buying a couple of players, isn't it? Let's be honest. Like you aren't, but you know, finding another Gordon or an Isak and even maybe a Bruno. Bruno's maybe a little bit easier to find, but still, yeah, those three kept is as good as bringing in a couple 20, 30 million pound players in a weird way, right?
Yeah, I think so. For me, like Gordon and Isak, like especially at the highs last season, they're one of the best partnerships in Europe when it comes to an attack. You know, if you're breaking them two versus 3 or 4 guys, like I fancy them to finish, you know, a good amount of their chances that they have. Never mind 2v2 or 1v2 or something, you know. So yeah, I think that's probably the main silver lining for Newcastle fans, perhaps out there. Do you think you can see them, Sam, getting into Europe?
Who?
Newcastle.
Sorry, I was going to run out of battery. I'm not as prepared as you guys for these longer streams. You know, I've not got the systems in place. I just left my charger on the side of the room. As I say, it was dead set on them finishing 4th. And although they have 7 points from 9, I just haven't seen it. Like, I'm not seeing what I thought I saw from Newcastle. So no, I don't have them finishing 4th. However, Top 7, yes.
Nice. I think, keeping the hold of the guys they've got is probably the biggest win they've had this window.
Yeah, always something to be said for that. Keeping Bruno, keeping Isak, it's massive. They're brilliant.
Yeah, very hard to replace. Although we'd have got them a lot of money and they might have been able to go out and buy 1,000 players, like Nottingham Forest normally do in a transfer window, but they didn't buy 1,000 players this time. They only bought, what's that, 500,000 or something? I don't know.
They were still quite busy.
Mega busy. So yeah, Forest, I'm quite, Forest have been weird since they've been back in the Prem. Like they've never really been too shy to go and spend money, but it never really feels that when you look at their squad, it's the same squad week to week for a start. And then really, there's Hudson-Odoi, we mentioned Alanga. It doesn't really feel like they've ever really got too far over these last couple of seasons. It feels like they're always kind of stuck in this mode of still trying to build a Premier League squad together. But they've added in now James Ward-Prowse, Nikola Milinkovic, Elliot Anderson. Is this Forest squad finally coming together, do we think?
I think so. I think it's on the edge of like calling them a Fulham for me. Like I know Fulham are way more established, but it does feel like they're definitely above water quite comfortably at this point. Forest for me, considering like the last couple of years were, very close to going down under Steve Cooper and whatever. But they've just got a bit more strength these days. Like having two proper wingers in Alanga and Callum Hudson-Odoi is huge. Having a real number 10 and keeping hold of Morgan Gibbs-White is massive. Chris Wood, he scores goals. I don't know what else to say, but he just puts the ball in the back of the net.
He's class.
He's amazing. Like he is amazing. Elliot Anderson, I know we said he's not 35 million, whatever, but he's come in and started already and already has had an impact. I don't like this. Roman Sosa's was absolutely lighting it up in Argentina. 10 mil for him feels like a nice little buy, and he's come off the bench already and whatever, made a bit of an impact. And I know they've just kept hold of everyone, it feels like, and got rid of Mangala, fair enough. Nakate didn't really play too much football from what I remember at centre back for them, and they brought in Milinkovic, like Quinny said, and kept hold of Murillo's a massive one. Honestly, I think this could be an established Premier League team at this point with the signings they've made. James Ward-Prowse on a loan, like little fun little ones there, that could really work well with a Chris Wood. And I don't know, I'm actually quite excited for Forest. They've started amazing as well. Like for Forest standards, come on.
No, you're right. I have just learnt that they signed David Carmo
from Olympiacos. That's a little dodgy one, isn't it? On the books.
There's been a couple here. So even someone who tracked transfers all summer and spent all of deadline day working on this stuff, still stuff slips through the net sometimes. And there's been 2 so far on your slides, Quinny, that I didn't know happened. Ooh. Carmo is one, and the other one was I didn't realise Onyeka had left on loan from Brentford. I didn't realise that had actually happened. I knew it was in the offing all summer, but I'm learning so much. I love Carmo. I think he's great. Like 4 years ago, maybe, or whatever it was, when he was coming through at Braga before he broke his leg, David Carmo was like, this guy could be the next Virgil van Dijk. And maybe that was a bit much, but still there was a reason that Porto broke the domestic transfer record to sign him. He was so much money. He's ended up on loan out at Olympiacos. He's won the Conference League, and now he's back here in the Premier League. Interesting to see. They have a lot of centre-backs. Murato is also pretty good. Nice left-footed player. Signed Milenkovic. They've got some good ones already. Murillo, Willy Bolly. Right. There's a lot of players in this team. If Ward-Prowse plays every week, that'd be lovely for his card.
Yeah. Just looking at his card now, by the way, it's a new name on me, David Carmo, but he's definitely got the minerals, doesn't he?
Oh, he's a good player. Man. He's a good player.
Before he had a mint on Sora, Quinny, oh my God, the scores at Braga, I'm pretty sure if you can look back, he was immense. Like, because I remember having a Costa back in the day thinking, I need an under-23 defender to go with him. That's not João Mario. And when they signed Carmo, I was like, yes, I finally cracked it. Like, there's my defensive stack. And then he just broke his leg and whatever. And yeah, just didn't really work out. But he was great.
Yeah. And Braga, yeah, very good scores. Above 70 quite often. Yeah. Hard to check all the minutes and stuff. But yeah, great shout. New one on me as well. Forest, then we say quite safely, don't go down. Probably don't do much more.
They look okay. They've got firepower. They've got solidity, they've got depth, they've got Morgan Gibbs-White, who's brilliant, and they've got a ton of centre backs. Like it's pretty difficult to look at that blend and think you're in trouble.
Yeah. I'd agree with that also. Your second team, Sammy Boy, Southampton, they're back in town, and Taylor Harwood-Bellis is finally in the Premier League. He's not been sold and given back to the Championship or anything like that. They signed Sugawara, they signed Ben Brereton Diaz. I don't know if I'll be able to forgive that one. Leslie Ogochukwu comes in on loan. Aaron Ramsdale, the goalkeeper. Noel Buck, goal figure. Cameron Archer. Busy window for Southampton, eh?
Yes, I feel like you're missing some at the end. What else happened? Maxwell Cornet on loan.
Oh, Cornet.
That was like after the deadline. And then we've been obviously on the outs. Harry and I have been tracking this all day, trying to shift Kamaldeen Sulemana. Paul Onuachu is presumably still going to go somewhere. Like there's a few moves to make already. Alcaraz got sent off for his debut for Flamengo.
Yeah, I saw that. I was going to send it to Feder because he was like, he's going to be amazing. I was like, I don't know.
Bloke can't get out of his own way. He's actually, there's the potential for a really good player there, but he just can't be trusted. Look, I'd like to leave this one to Harry if possible, and then I'll just build off it.
I'll be honest, I'm worried. I'm worried about Southampton. I don't think they've got a Premier League squad, and I don't think they've bought Premier League level players that can have an impact, i.e., stay up type of situation. I'm just not. Ramsdale's a massive addition. I'll be honest, from a goalkeeping perspective, getting that done, because McCarthy, as we know, is obviously not up to him. Bazunu definitely isn't either at a Premier League level. So it's like that they've given themselves a good chance. I'll be honest. They have given themselves half a chance now from a defensive side of things to get that right. I just worry, man. I just don't think they have enough firepower. I don't think Ben Brereton Diaz and Armstrong Armstrong definitely. Like, I think he's a championship level player, in my opinion, a very good one, but he's just not Premier League caliber for me. And I just don't think there'll be enough goals in that team to go around. And I think, as we've seen on the weekend, just a magnitude of different errors from centre backs, which doesn't matter how good your goalkeeper is. If your defenders are just screwing you over, you've just got no hope. It does not matter. And I worry those two. Yeah, if you can't get your defense right and you can't score goals, it smells like relegation to me. But we'll see.
So the early take on the games has been, unfortunately, Southampton have shot themselves in the foot for the points they've lost. Something like 73% possession against 10-man Newcastle, and actually the better team, and 11v11, have to say, genuinely the better team. And McCarthy passes one straight to Newcastle that Joe Linton puts in, and then Southampton miss at least 3 big chances, according to Opta. I think it possibly might have been 4 dropped points. Then the following week, similar thing happens. And the following week, the giveaway from Taylor Harwood-Bellis against Brentford is really bad. And then the mix-up between Bednarek and Flynn Downs for another goal. And it's like, you miss all your chances and you keep handing goals to opponents on silver platter. Russell Martin is already sort of defending his style of football to the media, talking about narratives, talking about like the way they want to play and like the give and the take. And we all know by now, right? It's you live by the sword, you die by the sword. When you build up from the back like that, it can create amazing situations. It can create terrible situations. You need really good players to pull it off. And of course, there's an adjustment period to doing it against championship pressing and doing it against Premier League pressing and Premier League players. Like, Premier League players are smart. They know how to defend. They know how to press. They are coached extremely well. They prepare extremely well. And if you do silly things, you are in trouble. So it's all about whether or not Southampton can overcome that and defeat their own demons in a way. Because, and I like to believe there's no bias here, but there may be a tinge. I think Cameron Archer is better than Eddie Nketiah, because I think they're actually similar players, but I think Archer is better. As a one-touch finish guy, I would trust. One player that's not on the incoming list here is Mateus Fernandes from Sporting, the £15 million, and he has looked really, really good. And they've got an academy that took him off Chelsea, Tyler Dibbling, who also looks really, really good. So there's some shoots of green for Saints. They kept KWP. Sugawara started really well, but a lot of them are very young. And a lot of them have a lot of learning to do. It just depends how long it takes for them to learn these lessons. And I don't know if it will be quick enough.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath on Southampton's survival this year. I think like me and Harry have done the deadline show. Like Harry does, I feel we have the same Southampton chat the first 3 games, but there's a question mark on the attack, and then I look at the midfield, and I'm looking at the how it finished against Bournemouth. But Matias Fernandes comes on at half time, like you say. Adam Lallana comes off in the last 8 minutes. I didn't even know he went back there. But the midfield is small bone Downs and Aribo. It just doesn't feel like it's going to last in the Prem.
Yeah, agreed. It's probably not there, but I think I don't blame Martin for giving the midfield that got them up the chance. So
Yeah,
I remember this with Villa, where when Villa got promoted 6 years ago, it was Neil Taylor and Ahmed El Mohammadi at left and right fullback, and we all knew that just wasn't good enough for the Premier League level. And Villa signed new players, for this situation. So Matt Targett was signed at left back, and Freddie Gilbert was signed at right back. Frederic Gilbert.
Oh,
yeah. So they were like waiting to come in, but like the manager wanted to give the players that came up the opportunity. And I think that's fair. I think you give them the chance to stake their claim at that level, but you have to give them a very short leash, because if it doesn't work, you can't get left too far behind. The good news for Saints is that, they've given that opportunity to those players, that midfield 3 in particular, that some of the fans are saying, sorry, this isn't Premier League level. Bring in Mateus, bring in Dibbling. These 2 players are like 18 years old each, by the way. So it's a lot to ask. But they're not buried already. I know it's only 3 games and stuff like that, but they're not even bottom. So it's a bit easier to spin it that way, right? They're not cut adrift. The manager has decided to give those players that got them up the opportunity to stake their case. And that, to me, is fair enough. It's about when he starts to pull that trigger, when he starts to reshape that team. Leslie Ugochukwu, for example, should probably be in the team. Downs, Ugochukwu, and Mateus, for me, would be the next step, which is very different to what we're seeing. But this is a matter of, treating the squad properly, treating people properly. And Martin, for all his flaws, is very good at handling players. So we'll see what the changes are outside, off the back of the international break. The good news is they've got United next, and Arne Slot has just told everyone how to beat them, because he's explained the entire tactical plan in detail for everyone to see.
So maybe on the way up. Yeah.
Did you see Slot's comments? Did you see what he said?
No, I've not.
He just. I tweeted them, so let's have a quick look. He said, just in terms of what he'd noticed this season, how to beat them. I see them working harder, in my opinion, if the ball is working through them, so they run more. Their fullback 9 out of 10 times is really high, and then Casemiro drops in between. So if you pick the ball up in the middle and then you keep Luis Diaz and Mo Salah high, then you are always in a 1v1 situation. And then you need a midfielder that can run. We had 3. They kept on running. They won the duels. They were aggressive. That's why we won. So basically, 3v2 in midfield, turn the ball over, and then keep the wingers really high. Don't ask them to come back and defend. And then you've got 1v1 across the pitch. Bang. And all their goals were like, won the ball, goal. So you have to have balls to leave those wingers really high. Because that's risky stuff. But he's just told everyone how to beat Man United's 4-2-4.
Yeah,
so come on,
Southampton love, they love pushing the boat out. They might go for it, and fair play. Do they save themselves from relegation this year? I don't know. Ramsdale could do a bit of a hero moment. I'm looking at the table as it stands now. You're right, they are not bottom. Of course, that is Everton. And the question does always become: is there 3 teams that will be beneath them?
So it's
a tough one.
So if you think Everton are the worst team in the league, which I mean, it's early days, but so far they have been. If you think Leicester are getting a -10, then actually, if you're Saints, you're looking for one. You're looking for one more. That might be wishful thinking on my part. I don't know. We'll see. But as long as it remains as tight as it is down there like that, the pressure is not steaming hot.
Yeah. Biggest loss for Southampton this summer, of course, is that Stuart Armstrong is on his way to Vancouver Whitecaps.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, good. I mean, just
good SO5 move.
I mean, Quinny, I thought he was actually done. Like,
really?
You remember me texting you?
Like, that what degree he's got?
What, like as in, so when he got injured in Cardiff in March, I was I think, I remember texting you like, I think this is it. Like, he's just been stretchered off, and he made the Scotland squad. Like, I don't know what kind of bones this guy has. He looked like he was actually headed for a coffin, and yet he made the Euros squad and played. So yeah, amazing, and I'm glad to see him find a nice move.
Yeah, go and hang out with Gold. Since Gold's now in the Scotland squad, maybe they can share a plane together. Maybe that's what's going on.
Share a seat.
Share a seat. We're close to the end of this run, guys. We've got Tottenham Hotspur, who, again, similar to Villa, were one of the would-be challengers come Christmas time last year to the title. Tottenham had a bit more of a hard slide off than Villa, granted. But back in Europe this year, and I think everyone is kind of, I think coming into the summer, there was a lot of eyes on Tottenham. Celtic fans would have thought Tottenham and Ange would have moved quite swiftly and quite quickly in the window. That's not really the way it did shake out. It was quite a bit more methodical and waiting for incidents to come up their way. They spent 115 million on 3 players, which is definitely a quality over quantity approach, letting 36 million pounds of players go. And Tottenham's problem, I think, for the last 5 years is that they've had too many chefs in there, and there's been half-built squads all over the place. And I think maybe the outgoings is maybe a wee bit more important than the incomings this summer, as long as they did get some pieces in, which maybe Archie Gray will develop into. Solanke could be, and Odegaard seems to have a bit of bones about him as well. I think this is a good window from Tottenham.
Yeah, they've definitely had worse windows, I think. The Archie Gray one, 35 mil. Like, it's a lot of money in a player that looks, at a championship level. It was amazing. I don't know if he's going to have that impact just because of who's in front of him this season as far as that midfield goes. So that one's more of a longer term one. But when you're getting 20 mil for Oliver Skip, it doesn't sound that bad when you're just adding 50 mil on to get Archie Gray, which could be a generational midfielder, if we're being completely honest. Like, he has that ability and potential. Solanke makes sense. Like, let's be honest, we can't. I say we as if I'm a Tottenham fan, but Richarlison's not the answer. Like, they needed somebody that is proven. I know he's just got injured, which is very unfortunate. But that is, if Tottenham want to kick on, like, they do need a proper number 9, because Son, we know Brennan don't score many goals, as does Kulu. Like, let's be fair.
Hey,
like, there's just, well, I'm just being honest. There's just not many goals.
Sorry, Harry and I are having a civil war / lovers quarrel over Brennan versus Kulu, because we have their cards and they seem to be in direct competition for a place.
And me and Quinny have it with Timo and Brennan as well. So, well, we did until
last year when he played.
Yeah, when he played. Yeah.
Read the messages back from me and Harry on Discord on Sunday, and it's just us slating the other player. We're calling Brennan a schoolboy. Like, never seen a football in his life. Harry's like, Kulu can't even trap a ball. And it's just us being nasty to each other the entire time.
It was hilarious. And they both ended on the same summer.
Yeah, they both got like 46.
It was hilarious. But Odegaard looks good. He looks sharp. Like, obviously at Burnley and whatever. And yeah, he looks fine. Is he going to start when everyone's fit? I don't know. Maybe he's probably in contention. I think they've done it to get rid of Ollie Skip for 20 million. Emerson Royale for 13 is very good business.
Great selling,
amazing.
That.
It's amazing selling. And Højbjerg, I think he's not going to start in this, this Tottenham sort of fluid, need to run football type of thing as a midfielder. But, I think he would have been good in and around the squad. But obviously, he wanted to go play football, and I get it.
But they got a good, so he's a loan with an obligation that's been pushed for, because Marseille ran out of money, right? And so they did a load of loan with obligations. The fee for him was pretty handsome, I think. The eventual fee is
is it 30 mil?
13.
Oh, 30. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I think it was 13 or 12 million with maybe a few add-ons, but considering he didn't really play he didn't start very many games, and I think they did all right with that one. It looks like they only got him out on loan, but I think they're getting some money for him. So add him to the list with Emerson, who he's rubbish,
right,
and
really bad.
And Skip is not good enough. So good stuff, really.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I think they could do well. I think the thing with Tottenham, the stage they've got to, we've not really touched on this exact angle with some other clubs, but it's definitely a big dynamic of football now with the 5 subs rule. Is it's not, you're building a good best 11, but it's really your main 16 is what you're kind of building, And I think Odegaard, Gray, Werner on loan really do add into that. And with the extra fixtures they're going to have this year, like I think it's a pretty solid window for Tottenham.
There's one name that's not on this list, but that I think it's fair because he signed in January technically, but didn't join until the summer, which is Lucas Bergvall.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So I think he's actually more of a last window signing. But I am getting like ridiculously excited about Lucas Bergvall, and I know it's silly because I've only seen him play about 25 minutes of football, but fucking hell, like I'm going to start a fan club. He's
beautiful.
An old Twitter account.
He's just like, and I don't. It might just be the sort of crop of blonde hair that's flopping around, but like watch the way he takes the ball off people and then sort of dances across the pitch and deposits over on the left, and he pops up on the right and he's got the ball again. He just drops it off here and then picks it up and takes it. It's fucking Frankie de Jong.
I was literally gonna say it before you did, Tom.
But like, I'm glad you agree because I think I was for a second I thought
as soon as I saw him play, it's Frankie de Jong.
Literally the Leicester game, I was like, it's Frankie de Jong right there. They've got Frankie de Jong for 8.5 million, or whatever it was, and he's obviously very young and hasn't played very much, and we have way jumped the gun here. But he's my new favourite player.
You know, he went on trial with United at 16, but they couldn't sign him for like a work permit or something reason. I'm pretty sure it was like there's a picture of him in a United kit, like he was. He was there, but he is Frankie de Jong regen.
Jeez, yeah.
Like the way he takes it on the half turn is like I've never seen anything like it. Like Frankie's better like driving with the ball, I'd say, but this kid on the half turn, similar to what Quinton Timber can do, like just gets his body in the way so well, and he like Gravenberch has been doing for Liverpool as well. The way they're sort of turning into or out of trouble and into free space is like bonkers. And this kid looks amazing.
Yeah, imagine that, Quinny. If your team signs the Swedish Quinton Timber, not the next Frankie, the Swedish Quinton Timber,
the better Timber.
I would say if people don't underestimate that, they've maybe not seen Big Timber in the flesh. He's a bloody unit in midfield, and aye. But it's definitely not as exciting as calling him the next De Jong. I'm definitely with you on that one. But no, I think it'll be a good year for Tottenham. I think finished 5th last year. I think top 5 is definitely on the cards again.
So my worry for Spurs, it's nothing to do with the window. Actually, no, I guess it does link in, is that I think that this might end up being a bit of a cursed comment, but I think they're quite brittle mentally. I think they look really good when they're in the ascendancy and they look like they could put 3 or 4 past the team. And then when the game turns against them, and it inevitably will in the Premier League, unless you're Man City, there's going to be a spell in a game of 20 minutes where the other team come at you and you have to respond with the right stuff. And I'm just not convinced over the course of last season and bleeding into this season that Spurs have got it in them to see out those periods. And I think one of the very quick and easy remedies to getting better at managing those periods of games is to sign more experienced players. I'm not saying that Spurs should have done that, but obviously with the players they've signed, which are mostly younger players who have room to grow, they've not really fixed it. And I think we've already seen this in the season. So that opening weekend against Leicester, they should have buried Leicester. They hammered them. They should have won that game 4-0 and they drew it 1-1. At the weekend, they played Newcastle. They were twice the team against Newcastle. They were way better. I don't know how they lost that game, but they lost it 2-1. And it's like, at a certain point, it becomes a bit of a mental block, a bit of a mental issue. I don't know exactly how you address it. There'll be various ways of doing it, but I don't think Spurs have actually fixed that. And then I compare them across the board to the others. And I think Villa do have that mentality. They've already seen out 2 really tough games against Leicester and against West Ham and picked up 6 points. They've already done what Spurs can't at the King Power. I think there's something to be said for that because I think that's really important in grinding the points when you're 7 or 8 teams competing for a 4th spot. And I just feel like Spurs haven't addressed that and they might end up falling short. I remember last year, I know they had a lot of injuries, but they didn't play European football. And this year they will. So, there you go. Perfect. Add 8 to 12 to 14 games to the schedule, make it even harder on yourself. Yeah, that's my concern with them. I actually love watching them and I love the talent. It's this bit. I'm not sure.
Fair. They could be a wee bit of the Newcastle's about them, like Newcastle back in the Champions League last year, and then obviously no European football this year. I can see that certainly happening, but I don't know. I think the best 11's quite good, and I think this kind of reinforcement behind them, like the way the European structure is working as well now, like 8 games and it's over. Is it the Mikey comment?
Yeah, it's the Mike Baston comment. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe I'm not as I'm not the prophet I think I am. Yes, you're right. Like, obviously, they've got a bit of a history of this. Antonio Conte has a famous quote, but like, it's really important to think about this stuff and remind yourself when we're projecting here the top. You know, can they do this? Can they do that? And it's not just about how good the players are. It's about responding to adversity in a game and whether or not you can do it. And I don't think Spurs have got it in them.
That was why I thought Højbjerg leaving's a little bit of a big miss there.
Yeah, probably, because he used to come on for like 15 minutes, didn't he?
Yeah,
and shore things up.
Yeah, shut up shop.
Yeah.
Like he just kick balls into channels and boot plays into the air, get a little yellow card. Like that was his game for a long time. I just think, do they have that coming off the bench these days? I don't know. Maybe they don't.
I was just looking at their bench against in the Leicester game. They made 6 subs. I guess one was a concussion protocol.
Yeah.
But that whole bench is halfway decent. You know, Werner, Richarlison, Bergvall, Kulusevski, normally a starter, I suppose. Jed Spence was getting good reviews in pre-season, and then Archie Gray. Well, that's and the best. The first 11 there was pretty good as well. You know, the only one I don't like is Bentancur.
Oi, what's wrong with him?
Oh, mate, you're not one of them, are you?
Sorry, what was that?
Bentancur. You're not one of them, are you? A Bentancur guy.
Define one of them. What on earth does that mean?
You think Bentancur is really good, don't you?
I think he's a pretty handy player.
Okay, he's okay. He's okay. He's okay. My problem is I make Tottenham videos.
It's not that kind of stream. Don't worry.
Yeah. My problem is when I make Tottenham videos and I just call it how I think it is with Bentancur. Tottenham fans love Bentancur, and I really don't get it. I'm like, why? He doesn't do anything. He can pass a bit, but I'm not a fan.
We'll have words after. Don't worry.
Personally, not a fan, but anyway, I think it's a decent enough window from Tottenham. Let's see how they kind of shake out. European spots, I think we all agree they might get European football next year, but maybe top 5 is a bit of a stretch with the fixture burden they've got. I would say Wolves were definitely one of the teams I had no idea I was going to watch as much of as I did last year, and I enjoyed watching them more and more every week as it went on, partly because of how bad they get screwed over by the refs and the VAR. It felt like for like 3 months in a row. And I don't know, I just really liked Gary O'Neill's like kind of style of play as well. It was a bit different, it was you know, kind of leaning in a hard direction. Lopetegui had left first game of the season and all the rest of it. But anyway, Gary O'Neill in the summer had some big links. He might have went to Man United as an assistant, maybe went to Liverpool as a manager, depending on what links you read and you believe and whatever. But I thought Wolves this year, like, let's see how much money they've got. But if they keep Gary O'Neill, like, they could have been a bit of a wild card, bit of a firecracker this year. Transfer window's been and gone. Quite underwhelming for the most part, I think.
I don't know. I think there's a few exciting players there for me. Like Jorgen Larsson, I think, will now allow Quinny to actually be more of a 10 again, like he was at Hertha, which saw him get his move and obviously do pretty well there. I just don't think he's just not a 9. Like Cunha's not a 9. Like he's not. Yeah. He needs to be linking play. He needs to be threading through your Larsons to get on the end of things and slotting balls into the back of the net that way. I think they've got a decent team, considering they just lost Pedro Neto and Max Kilman for like nearly 90 million pounds. Like, I think they've absorbed it quite well in a weird way. Carlos Forbes coming on loan is quite a fun one. I've heard this Rodrigo Gomez is supposed to be really interesting.
Oh, I've seen him. I saw him on the opening day. He looked really, really nice.
Did he? Yeah, one of my mates.
Tricky winger.
Who's this Andre fella?
Oh, he was supposed to sign for Fulham in the last 3 windows in a row. I can't believe they've botched this. Like tough tackling, kind of box to box Brazilian number 8.
Standard, yeah. I don't know. I like coming off the bench. Like that's no Juan there. Juan came off the bench on the weekend. They've got Goncalo Guedes, which I didn't realize, which is a Quinny throwback. Big Guedes fan. Tommy Doyle, Doherty. Like there is definitely a lack of quality. I think maybe in their 16, 17, 18. But like the starting 11 on the weekend, add in like a Forbes off the bench maybe, Gomez didn't play. They played out Nauri left wing apparently here, which is interesting. I don't know. There's still a bit there. Like it didn't scream relegation to me. Like I think that's a half decent Premier League window. It's not great, but it's not bad.
Quinny, what does Jose Sarr 10 million in asterisks mean?
I think it was maybe pending when we were putting this together. It was still kind of all up in the air and stuff because he has left now, hasn't he? And that's why the Sam Johnson move
Has he?
Makes a bit more sense. Yeah, Jose Sarr's on his way out. He's Red X.
Has he gone?
I think he's on his way to Red X land, or he's close to it.
I don't know if he's gone.
If it was kind of pending, I think we're putting this together.
I think he's... Wait.
No, he's still there.
What's he done?
I think.
I don't know. Well, who knows? Well, they signed Sam Johnston, so he is in trouble regardless. I don't know if I don't think he's quite gone yet, but obviously with the window still open, we'll see. I was a bit surprised. I nearly bought a Jose Sarr. Harry can attest. I was narrowing my options down for a Premier League goalkeeper, and I was like, yeah, I think Sarr's a really good shout. Nope, but I didn't do it. So I've finally come out the right side of one of those.
Right.
Look, outgoings, Max Kilman, Pedro Neto, two of their best players. Incoming, nothing too established. New goalkeeper, some bedding in stuff. It's a bit of a concern. I think that hopefully not.
Mickey's on fire tonight.
Peter Andre can he get around the pitch? Can he get around the pitch like Andre? Jeez, yes is the answer.
He covers ground. He does cover ground.
Does, yeah. Yeah, it's a very uninspiring window for sure. I don't think that they were in a position where they could have been weakened so much that they could actually go down. Or at least I didn't think that, but I don't know. I get a bad vibe from this list in front of me. I hadn't really considered it before, but I get a bad vibe. And Gary O'Neill is a very good coach. I will give him that. He annoys me. Like I don't like listening to him. I think he moans too much and makes too many excuses and points the finger. Like he does actually really annoy me. But you can separate that and say he's clearly a very good coach. So when you've got a good coach on board, generally speaking, you're okay. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to put them on my radar. These off the back of this stream. Maybe that's the biggest thing I've learned.
Yeah, in terms of like underwhelming for me, it is more like we kind of associate Wolves with a bit of ambition with signing. I've got a dead battery. I'll change it in a second. But signing Fabio Silva for 120 million or whatever stupid transfer fee they paid for him at the time, you know. I'll maybe just put the crap camera on for the back end of this, but yeah, so I've kind of thought, you know, they keep Gary O'Neill, there's maybe a wee bit of promise around him and the club, and I know they're kind of strapped for cash, you know, the rest of they've been spending oodles of money for as long as time has been going, but I thought there might have been a guy that came in, especially when they think they're going to be selling Neto for 50 million, that they maybe, and you know, like I was bigging up Rodrigo Gomez in the summer. There's been a quiet Neto kind of, not replacement, but a guy that can come in and share that workload. So it's good to see him getting it. Carlos Forbes, we were all mad hyped about getting into senior football after his numbers in the Premier B or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it doesn't feel like the midfield is João Gomez and Lamina. If something bad happens to one of them, like they kind of lose a lot of what makes them them, I think, you know.
True, but Andre is very energetic as well, so it probably does fit that mold quite nicely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fair. I just don't know him.
Maybe Wolves are just that really difficult side to play against that just eke out those points that they need to eke out, and they're okay. I honestly hadn't thought about their sort of situation in any kind of perilous terms until like 3 minutes ago, where I thought, ooh, actually,
I always expected to. They're normally the enemy for you, aren't they?
Not keen.
Not
keen. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they'll scrape by.
Yeah,
just about. This is the team that Southampton want to, go down ahead of them. Basically,
for sure. This is the one. They're looking for a team to nosedive, and there'll be 4 or 5 in the picture that you don't necessarily think they will be, but they will be. Mm-hmm. And this is probably one of them.
Yeah, fair.
So all the Midlands teams apart from your mob, basically.
Yeah, they're all useless except mine. I am translucent.
Oh, don't blame me, man. I say you've got a reason to be, but ruling the Midlands, even with Birmingham City and all their Tom Brady money, maybe coming back eventually in a couple of years.
Jay Stansfield, £15 million, mate. League One
Tomoki Awata from Celtic. J-League Player of the Year 3 years ago, whenever we bought him. But yeah,
Wow.
that brings us on to the final team we've got in the Premier League here. And I've got to say, this was one of the windows that was non-existent, and then it was just happening. I know Kilman came in dead early, Guilherme came in kind of early as well.
Yep.
But, you know, within like 3 days, they signed Somerville, Fulkrug, Guido, Todibo. Wan-Bissaka wasn't far behind. And then deadline day, King Carlos is in the Prem. He's maybe going to be a first team player again. So I'm quite happy about that. Only 120 million for that. That feels like good business.
I've said a few times on this stream, there've been players that I really wanted Villa to sign.
Soler.
Yeah, Soler. And on a 2-year loan as well. Could we have not been in that conversation? Never mind. It's gone. It's done. It's finished. Whatever. Look, a lot of business here. Again, another point I made earlier, which is you can sometimes confuse lots of business, big spend with good. Not always good. There's a lot to prove here for these players. And there's a new manager involved as well, so it adds another layer. I don't think Guido Rodriguez has started particularly well, but they've been a bit slow with the others, so that's okay. I don't mind, taking their time to integrate Todibo. Wan-Bissaka started his first game at the weekend. Fulkrug hasn't started a game yet, as far as I can see. Kilman's had a great immediate impact. He scored a 100 for me on So Rare, and also got an assist and was very good against Villa as well. Luis Guilherme, give him a bit of time. Seems like he's a left-footed right winger. Jared Bowen plays there. He's the captain of the club, so temper it. But I like their sporting director, man. I think he's got a good eye for talent, and I think he's building a decent squad here. And we're all sort of looking at West Ham and thinking, can you take that next step? Not just in terms of going from 7th to 4th or whatever, but in terms of playing style as well. Can you be less terrorist ball? And there's a chance with the squad that they're building here that actually happens over time. And first game of the season, Quinny, I was watching obviously Villa play West Ham, and Somerville came off the bench for West Ham, and Jadon Philogene came off the bench for Villa. And West Ham obviously pushing for this equaliser, and Villa are defending the lead. And you've got possibly the two best wingers in the Championship last season, if not two of the best three, in Somerville and Philogene, chasing each other up and down the same flank, trying to tackle each other for 15 minutes, trying to make a really good impression for their new team. It was amazing to watch these two. This is the cream of the crop for the Championship. They get thrown in with 15 minutes to go in the Premier League, and they're just trying to tackle each other. They nearly drove each other off the pitch several times. It was amazing to watch.
Aye, I love to hear about that. It sounds like a bit of a Lions Den. There's one moment on the table, in this match, and who's going to get it between the two of you.
Definitely, and it was Philogene, and it was a tackle. That was it. That was the big moment. He stopped Somerville from doing something, and that was the decider.
That's just the reality of the Premier League, though, isn't it? He's the most flary Championship winger we've ever seen, doing Rabonas and stuff into the top corner, but actually putting in a tackle to save his team, the other team not going down the other end and scoring maybe is the goal, or is the assist in a weird way. The margins are very much, very different. The actual incomings and outgoings here just reminds me of what we've seen with Brighton. This feels like they're in very similar, positions, i.e. they've spent very well. They haven't spent 60 million on someone not stupid, but everything's in that 30 to 15 range or whatever. Kilman was obviously a little bit more, but proven Premier League, you're going to do that, right? English tax and all that fun stuff. But it's well worth it, I think, at that price. I don't think it's as good as Brighton's if we're looking at who is the best. Not that we have to compare them, but I do think Brighton's is a little bit more so rareable in some ways. I don't know. There's just a few not dodgy ones, but I don't know. There's a few here that I'm a bit how is Fulkrug gonna play? You've mentioned the Guido Rodriguez already. Todibo on a loan. Is he even going to get ahead of Mavropanos and Kilman? Maybe ahead of Mavropanos. I don't know.
You'd expect so, but Mavropanos has
right?
he has acquitted himself very well to start the season. He knows he's got competition He like when you see a player and you're very
Antonio,
aware.
literally.
You're
He's like,
very aware that your rival has just arrived, and that's what I'm seeing in Mavropanos at the moment. I think he's been pretty good, but you don't sign Todibo like that. Like Todibo was holding out for Juve all summer,
right.
and he ends up at West Ham. He's not going to sit behind Mavropanos, is he?
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. I love how they've replaced Kufal. Like I'm not a big fan of Kufal. Sorry, and Wan-Bissaka is a massive upgrade on him. I think Emerson's fine. It would have been maybe nice to bring in a better left back. I think he's fine, but I don't think he he doesn't take you to the next level, in my opinion.
But how much room have you got?
How much is that? Yeah, exactly. No, I know.
Is that a next summer thing? We'll do left back next year.
Yeah, I'm just looking at who came off the bench. Somerville's like the only attacking winger. I don't know who else they had on the bench that didn't come on, but yeah, I guess you do have to spend 25 on a Somerville, right, to come off the bench and potentially start games where a Kudus or Paqueta get injured or whatever happens. I think they've done really good business, West Ham. I kind of didn't realize how well they've kind of done, and for me, they're in my top 3 easily for transfer windows. Go 100%.
Yeah, I think the difference between I think you've made a great connection there, Harry, from Brighton to West Ham, but the Brighton guys are all U23, U24 a push.
Mainly.
These guys are all O24 to U28 or U30, aren't they?
100%.
Somerville, Guilherme.
Oh, Somerville, sorry.
They're both
a couple of.
I'm thinking about the main body of it, but yeah.
There's a bit more experience here for sure.
Guidos and stuff, but yeah, it's a strong window. And West Ham against them with a few teams we've spoke about tonight. No midweek football, no European football this year. And again, I've heard a lot of people before a ball was kicked saying maybe West Ham could be the Villa, the Newcastle kind of surprise package. I'm not been that convinced on Lopetegui for the most part when he's been in the Premier League, and I think that might be a part of it, to be honest with you. But I'm excited by the transfer business. I'm quite excited by the squad, and even looking at the best 11 that they've played, like there's no real reason to doubt them so far. But I don't know, Lopetegui just feels way too boring for a team like this to be full front and attacking and killing teams the way that Villa did and the way Newcastle did when they qualified top 4, So it's going to be an exciting year for West Ham, undoubtedly.
Yeah, I guess so. So Quinny, what's your number 1?
My number 1 for the window, you've thrown me right under. I think my number, you need to give me a second to pause for the cause, Sammy boy. My number 1, I don't know. I might pick West Ham, by the way, because I was really taken back by them towards the end of the window. I don't want to be totally biased because I'm swayed by who I'm on at the moment. So I'll have a wee quick flick through. But no, I think I was quite buzzing with West Ham because I don't think Villa have done it in spells. Brighton have, maybe it's Brighton, but there's not that many clubs that do see what West Ham have kind of done this window. You kind of have seen this in times over the continent when a team gets into the Europa League regularly. And then they start buying some marquee signings after a while. And then, they kind of cement themselves as being a team that non-hardcore football fans, just the passive football fans recognise as being like a European level outfit. So it feels like West Ham have maybe made, obviously they won a European trophy 2 years ago. They've been in Europe 3 out of the 4 seasons or whatever. So I was quite impressed that they're trying to make that kind of leap anyway. I think it's between them and Brighton. I would probably go for West Ham because one of you will probably pick Brighton.
Harry?
Yeah, it's hard to look beyond those two, but from I'm glad you've not gone crazy overboard situation. I don't mind the Ipswich situation, on what they've done. I think beyond all these different teams have different goals, obviously, and Brighton's and West Ham's are quite similar. They've kind of done similar things. One's gone the under-23 route, one's gone the over, whatever. Similar spends. But the Ipswich thing, I do have a little soft spot for what they've done, and kept their manager and spent, quite reasonably in the Championship, and like you said, a couple of prem players that maybe fell out of love with the game and whatever, and has got another chance. Honestly, because I know you're probably going to go for one of the two, aren't you, Sam? So I'm going to say Ipswich.
Well, look, I mean, I think Brighton have had a lot of fun, and it is a lot of fun to see these players come in. I think I've got a lot of respect for Ipswich's approach, but I'll go Brighton because neither of you picked them. That was very generous of you. But my second choice would have been would have been Arsenal.
Wow.
Like, I really like what Arsenal have done. I think Calafiori is a fantastic player. I think Sterling is a great late opportunistic get. And I think Marino is going to add a lot to them in midfield. And I am not one of those people, clearly, by picking them, that thinks that a 25 goal striker is the missing piece. There's you're either in that camp or you're not. And I think it's not necessary for Arsenal to sign that player. So I clearly don't hold it against them. I look at those players and I think, bar Neto, who's a backup goalkeeper, who cares? You've done a cracking job.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up because we did him so early on. You kind of forget, and the Sterling loan. I don't know. I don't think they will.
They might, but it's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
It's okay. Sure. If they signed 8 players who were 31 on 4-year deals at 100k a week and they got relegated, they've done a shit job. But they didn't do that.
Like a QPR did a couple of years ago.
That's not what they've done at all. They've safeguarded. They've made themselves competitive whilst taking care of themselves, and that's hard to do in football because sometimes you just go, "Oh, should we just spend money on this player?" Like the temptation must be amazing.
The power, the rush.
Yeah. I'd love to be in control of a football team, a real football team's transfer policy. You
can't just sign a Matt O'Reilly 11 times, Quinny. That's not how it works.
I wouldn't do that. Come on.
No, I'll be one of them, right?
Yeah, no, probably not. I'll definitely be going to get some collection pieces out, So I'll be up to. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. I think we've had way too much time from both of you. So thanks, Harry. Thanks, Sam, for obviously joining us on this and giving it a good whirl round. Thanks to everyone that's tuned in. We've had great viewers across. I think I put this across Twitter and Twitch as well. Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube, and all the rest of it. So wherever you've been watching, guys, thanks very much. Hope you've enjoyed this one. But again, we get a cat shot, Harry.
3 hours. Can you believe it?
I can't.
He's decided to show up.
Beth, where's Scooter?
Good. We're around a cat off to finish this survey.
Sam's cat. Me and my wife are absolutely in awe of Sam's cat. So, we're in love with them. But we have a fun cat as well. It's just not as fun as Sam's.
Oh,
no, Sam's cats are...
All cats are fantastic.
Yeah, all cats are fantastic.
All cats are fantastic.
Come here.
No cats for me.
Oh, there he is.
Yay.
Okay. Camera shy. See, Sam's cat's trained. I wish why can't you be trained?
He's not trained.
He's a natural.
He's a natural.
Oh, he's going to settle. Lovely stuff. Quinny, I've got an hour more in me because Hero's going to settle down. All good. All good. Actually, it's a bit crotchy, that, isn't it? Sorry. There you go. This is the Sorare After Dark. There we go. But anyway, all good.
Thanks a lot, guys, to everyone that's tuned in live. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, retweet, all that good stuff. All the links to Sam and Harry will be in the description of this after we've been live. So if you've been watching this after we've been live, you can go check the guys out. But it's at Harry Trades YT on Twitter. Sam Ty the Football Guys. If you're turning on your TV, you're watching football, Sam will be there somewhere. At STY Football on Twitter or X. And again, obviously you're on this channel, so you probably know who I am. But yeah, thanks to everyone. And Sam, Harry, it's been an absolute pleasure. Sorry, I'm doing a bad job of the outro, but thanks again.
Buddy. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Loved it.
Tottenham.